Welcome back to the Aviation RC Noob Podcast. You found us. My name is Joe.
And I'm Matt.
We're here to be with you along your journey and to share our experiences in RC aviation. If you have any questions, thoughts, or want to share a flight story, hit us up at aviationrcnoob@gmail.com. Now, buckle in. Let's take off.
Welcome to episode 39. We are here with Red Jensen. We're going to talk about Reno Racing and STEM. So welcome, Red.
Hey, thanks for having me, guys. My pleasure to be here.
If you don't know...
Welcome back.
Yeah, all right. Welcome back. Exactly.
Yeah.
Our first return guest. Congratulations.
Whoa, really?
Yeah.
What an honor.
Yeah. So if you haven't listened, I don't remember which episode it is, but it's probably around 25. There you go. Episode 25 and 26. We spoke to Red Jensen. Red Jensen is the, his official title is Robert Red Jensen, Class 1 and Class 2 SUAS Chief Pilot, Master UAS Technician, and the Model Lab Operations Engineer at the Dale Reed Subscale Research Lab at NASA's Neil A. Armstrong Flight Research Center. But he is best known as an aviation junkie. So
yeah, that's
we are glad to have you.
Thank you.
Well, thanks for coming back and speaking with us again, Red.
Oh, it's my pleasure. It's, I love talking to friends, especially about things that I love. So this is great.
We ran out of time last time, so I'm glad we got some time this time to talk about the other things you love. We're also going to talk about, as usual, we're going to talk about today we're going to talk about the B-17 bomber, go into a little bit of history. Joe's going to give us some information on that. We're going to talk about what we flew and what we did in the hobby in the last couple of weeks. And then, of course, cover community events. And as always, ask, and then we're going to talk to Red about all the amazing things the other amazing things that he gets himself into that isn't necessarily NASA, but it certainly involves.
In spite of NASA.
In spite of NASA. Right. Okay, well, so what we usually do is we start off with our build stories, if you remember. What have you been up to in the RC hobby, in the last couple of weeks? Anything?
Oh, yeah. So a couple things. So, I grew up flying slope gliders, among other things. I flew everything, but flying slope gliders was always very near and dear to my heart. And I've always had a slope glider or two in the arsenal. And I grew up in Northern California, and there's this beach up there called Sunset Beach. It's in Watsonville. It's near Santa Cruz, if anybody's familiar with that, a little bit south of Santa Cruz. And I went to this Sunset Beach when I was a kid with my dad, and we met some of his friends there, and it's just a very vivid memory for me. Well, for the last couple of years, Wayne from Aloft Hobbies, which is he's got a brick and mortar hobby shop. He's also an online retailer, big into sailplanes and gliders. He's had this little thing he calls a camp and fly, where you get together and just a bunch of guys flying slope gliders at Sunset Beach. It's absolutely gorgeous, overlooking the Pacific Ocean, and the weather's generally great. And it's a nice gentle sea breeze. And
it's
so
a pretty steady slope. I think I've seen a couple of his videos. Uh-oh.
Oh.
We just lost Red.
We'll get him back in just a minute.
We'll get him back in a second.
Welcome back, buddy.
Jeez.
All right.
Holy cow. Sorry about all that.
No, whatever.
So I was talking about this slope event.
So
I went to this.
You have a friend over at Aloft Hobby.
Yeah, Wayne that owns it. We didn't really become friends until after I met him in person at this event. But I went up to this event last, I think it was in May last year. And it was a blast. I had a really good time. Hey, Jack, can you do that inside, please? Jack, I'm live with them. Can you do that inside?
Talking to the puppy.
My son is breaking ice right now.
Don't worry about it, buddy.
It's good, bud.
We're all family people here. Like it's all good, man.
So anyway, I went to this event last year, and I went up Friday, and then Saturday I had actually went to a electric pylon racing event, and then I came back Sunday. Well, Sunday there was no wind. Friday was pretty good. Saturday was the amazing day, and I missed that day. So at any rate, I'm building a couple of slope planes to take to that event right now. So that's what I've been working on. And which ones? So gentleman by the name of Andy Whitehead at Angel Wing Designs over in the UK.
Mm-hmm.
He is a Prandtl fan, and he has kitted a Prandtl wing called an FVT3, and it's designed by a guy named Marko Stamanovic, who had been collaborating with Al Bowers, my co-conspirator at NASA, with all the Prandtl stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And Marko designed it, and then Andy kitted it. So it's a very low swept wing,
Yeah.
all balsa, and it's got the Prandtl twist, which there's a couple of interesting things about it that are different to me after staring at dozens of these Prandtl flying wings that I've designed, or not necessarily designed, but built and flown myself. And this one, and one of the things about this particular one is they twist the airplane around the leading edge, so you can see the leading edge is dead straight on this.
Yeah.
And then the curve is actually occurs
trailing
down
edge.
the trailing edge, right?
Like a reflex.
So it makes it a little bit weird because the hinge line is curved. Now, on all of our NASA airplanes, we twisted it about the 3/4 chord line so that the hinge line was dead straight.
Yeah.
And it gives kind of a sine wave at the leading edge. So this just physically looks different to me than what I'm used to normally seeing. So
Right.
this one I got ready to cover. I just got servos in the mail today, so I'll install those servos maybe tomorrow and start covering that. So that's one of the slope gliders that I've been building.
Nice.
But back to the slope meet thing. It sort of rekindled the fire for a lot of the airplanes I had when I was a kid that I could never afford or never had or always wanted and didn't buy.
Right.
So one of those is it's called a mini. I don't know how well you can see this, but it's called a mini SR, and it had a bigger brother called the SR7, and this is a scaled down version of that by a different company. So I've had this kit for 15 years.
That looks like a pretty I'll call it a squat fuse. It's kind of what it looks like.
It's kind of designed after a T-38 Talon, so it's kind of got that same plan form, but it's stretched obviously to be a glider. So that's one of the ones I'm working on there. I have probably 6 flyable slope planes at the moment.
Oh, nice.
So I'm working on that. This is another sailplane I'm working on. This is a 2-meter, more modern type airplane. But I've got probably another 5 or 6 vintage slope gliders that I'm intending to try to build between now and the end of April. So
that last one looks a lot like a hand launch glider, like a discus launch. I mean, it's not.
It's not a discus launch. Yeah, it's high aspect ratio. It's a light wind, 2-meter fiberglass fuse and Obishi covered wings. A little more high performance type airplane.
Yeah, nice. I mentioned the only reason why I mentioned that is because that's if you're not familiar with what you're holding up, you know what I mean, by name. Most people kind of know what a DLG looks like, at least roughly.
It's a 2-meter glider, which means the wingspan is 2 meters.
Mm-hmm.
This has separate. If I can flip it around here without hitting anything. Separate flaps and ailerons, so you can see you get the servos right in the right built into the wing. V-tail, so neat. A little more aerobatic, a little bit faster than a DLG. Yeah, thank you. But it's off the shelf.
Yeah, definitely. Well, it's set up for sloping, but at the same point, I mean, if you're looking for like, what does that look like? Very good. Yeah. Nice.
And then I just finished.
So you're gonna bring all? Are you gonna bring all 6 that you have ready?
I'm shooting for a dozen actually. I have 6 flyable. I'm shooting for to take an even dozen. So my youngest son Ryan, he just turned 13. He's my flying buddy. We fly together. He had a great time last year, and on base where I work, they rent camper trailers. So we're gonna rent a trailer, and then we're gonna go for 4 days this time and not miss any of the days to go to a pylon race. And I stayed in a hotel last time. I'm going to stay in the camper in the campground. You camp right at the slope, which is going to be great. So I'm really looking forward to that.
Yeah, and you won't miss any of the nighttime festivities.
No, Yeah, the only bummer is they don't allow electric planes, so I can't bring any of my night flyers or my foamies or anything like that. So, but we'll still have a good time.
Wait, so you can't put anything with lights up?
Well, if it was a glider, yes, but
Okay.
no powered stuff because it's a state park, so
Oh,
they forbid them.
okay. All right. Interesting. Well, cool. That sounds like you're going to be busy.
I'm always busy. I'm not happy unless I'm busy.
That's awesome. Joe, what are you working on? I know you've been plucking at some things here and there.
A little bit, and not a whole lot of the hobby, honestly. So let's see, we put out our last episode just after Thanksgiving, and so the
Right.
weekend after that, okay, so yeah, when the last episode went out, I was out of town for Thanksgiving.
Right.
So
We
there's
had talked.
nothing
We had
going on
talked
then.
right before Thanksgiving.
Yeah. So I was out of town, seeing my wife's family for that, and
Mhm.
then, basically since then it's been a lot of trying to reorganize the garage.
Yeah. Getting your
So she
workshop
can
together.
park in there, but also so I can reclaim some space. And part of that, yeah, I know.
Red's like,
No-
no, don't do that. That's supposed
No
to be
cars in
RC
the shop.
space.
No cars in the shop.
Yeah, well, you know what? She leaves the house early in the morning and it's cold because it's winter time. So,
Yeah, buy her a nice jacket.
I go out in the mornings and I turn her car on for her
There you go.
sometimes,
Yeah.
but it's
No, I get it.
still,
Happy wife,
Yeah.
happy life.
That's it.
Yep.
Yeah.
So I've been getting the garage cleaned out. And now part of cleaning the garage was to get the planes out of the garage into the man cave because I didn't want to worry about hitting them and bumping them and having to relocate them multiple times. And eventually, to get the garage cleaned out enough, they were all going to have to come in anyway. So all the planes are currently in the man cave, and I'm working on getting them suspended from the ceiling,
Mhm.
where I ultimately want a lot of my planes to be. So that's sort of that.
Well, that's pretty much a follow up almost directly on what we were talking about in our previous episode, which is getting
Yeah.
ready for build season, which is sort of like get your space ready, get all the stuff you need, get some plans
It
set
is.
up. Like Red's already got like 6 more to go. he's
And
like,
I
oh my
can't-
God, what have I done?
I can't have one airplane that I'm working on. I've got to have 5 going at once because I'm always waiting for parts or waiting for paint to dry or something. So
Right.
I tend
man.
to build in series or in parallel, I guess you would say.
Yeah, you and me both. I've got about, and everybody's like, well, how did you get like 3 of them done all of a sudden? I mean, like about 6 of them have been in limbo somewhere in the middle for like 3 months solid.
Yep.
Where I pick at them every couple. I work on them for another 10, 20 minutes, put something in, get another thing situated and go, oh man, I'll have to wait. And then I put it aside and then get involved with another thing for the next month. And then I find that like, oh, hey, there's that, there's a FPV camera. Let me put that in. And all of a sudden I'm back on that project again,
Awesome.
Well, I can tell you something's been a real kick in the seat, as it were. And this is off topic, but part of what I've been doing for the past couple of weeks.
Mhm.
One of the things I was doing. So, I've got a drag around air compressor on wheels, little 20-gallon tank thing. And my dad a while back gave me his old ceiling air hose drop. So it's that wheel
yeah.
spring load.
Yep.
So I've got that, and I just had to get it plumbed up with PVC or CPVC, ultimately what I use, to tie it in, get it mounted up, which was a booger to get it mounted to the ceiling, and then they don't make a single adapter. You'd think they would, to go from 1/4 inch coming out of the air tank to CPVC, or PVC. You'd think they would just make that part, but they don't. It's a $5 part to come out of the tank, and a $5 part to size it up, and another $5 part to get it to the right size, and another $5 part to get it converted from brass to, So I get all that. Come to find out, and I'm going to keep this one shorter, but come to find out I was trying to step from 1/4 inch, stepping from 1/4 inch to 1/2 inch, then from 1/2 to 3/4, and I piece it all together. I was like, I got what I need, and I get home and come to find out, no, I had a 1/2 inch to 3/4 female, and then a 3/4 female. Anyway, basically, I wound up
Yeah.
with a 1/2 inch female and 3/4 inch male, or a female. So
All the
it
parts
just
didn't
wasn't going to
fit
work.
together quite like they're supposed to.
Yeah, yeah. And so anyway, I went back to Lowe's, got some more parts, but got it all plumbed up and done finally. Run all the way over to the hose. I said, okay, I'm probably going to blow out one of my elbows or something, but I got to see how it does. I run the compressor up to pressure, and then open the valve and just hissing like crazy. It is blowing air from 4 different points. One among the converters stepping up because it was double-sided threaded female, like a water hose screw in. And so I guess that just can't be airtight. I thought it should have been able to because it had rubber seats in it and all, but and it's also blowing out from where it ties into the wheel, like that connector in the wheel is blowing air. And then the quick disconnect at the end of the hose isn't sealing, which is fine. Cut the hose and put a new one on, but there's 2 or 3 other leaks that I don't know if I'm going to be able to overcome. And one of them's in the wheel. And I was like, I don't know if I can fix that or if I'm going to have to get a new wheel, in which case this project goes on hold for a number of months because that's way down the priority list.
Yeah, right. Yeah, it just would have been nice to have is all.
Yeah, because, you just grab the drop hose and slap your
tool.
I got one of those, any tool for doing projects, but I got one of the, dagnabbit. Anyways, what you fill your car tire with, but is one of those with a pull trigger, and it's got the pressure gauge in it, so you just, poop, fill your tire up. Okay, I'm at pressure, and I had one of those, and now I can't even use my compressor because plumbing it in has got it locked in place. So it's a thing.
I'm sorry, Joe.
That's fine. That's life.
It is sometimes. It can be. So
nothing goes according to how you want it to.
Did you make any headway on the 7? I know you were trucking some distance last time we talked.
I think the last we talked, I was just finishing up the cockpit. So, or the canopy. So, yeah, that's where it is. It's on the bench over there where I moved it in here. Just things going on. I hadn't had a chance to really build anything yet.
That's fine. When I come in a couple weeks, I will bring a couple hubs for wheels, and I will bring some of the extra floor, the foam floor matting, the anti-fatigue matting. Those make amazing tires for that size plane, like the 40, 50 inch little, they honestly, they'll be great. And then we'll hopefully be able to fly it.
Nice.
Good. Cool. I've been working at least the last week here on the 13th Squadron P-61. It's been sort of littering my dining room table, and it's now finally, as I'm shaping everything, and it's starting to actually look like a P-61 now. There was a lot of wait, where does this former go? My old eyes are I can't read this indent. It's a black Dollar Tree foam board with a laser etching, which is awesome, except I have to look at the right lighting for me to be able to see what it was. So I'm pulling up the plans, and I'm half the time my computer's in the other room, and I'm I don't want to pull it up on my phone. Anyway, a lot of this and that, and then finally kind of got it all pulled together and started forming everything up. And there were a couple parts I'm where does this go? The very back where the tail, the vertical stabilizer slides into the back of the tail section of one of the booms. There's an assembly that kind of glues on the back end of the main boom section. And that's where the tail pieces, it has a fork and it kind of slides into a little groove in there. Not the easiest thing to do, but when it's in, it actually, it's a really clever mechanism to kind of get everything put together right. But I was sitting there looking at these pieces going, I don't even know what they're for. It's too small for a firewall or some sort of power pod, or I don't even know why do we have more of these pieces? There's circular pieces with little windows in it. I'm I don't get it. Anyway, so I started looking through the plans a little bit more detailed and said, oh, okay, there we go. That's what they're for. So I've been working at that, and it's starting to look like a P-61. So now I'm just trying to figure out how in the world am I going to get how am I going to make the canopy out of the plastic food container stuff? with my, I'm going to use my heat gun and try to get those formed up, and then pull out what's the foam board cockpit and put in the real canopy. And then I'm going to put a couple red LEDs in there, paint the insides a little bit. Yeah, I'm actually going to put probably a paper faux cockpit that kind of sits in with the canopy. It comes in one piece and puts back in. So that way when it's in, it's lit and it looks great, but you can pull it out and get to the battery and the receiver and stuff. Cause that's really all that's going to be in there.
P-61 is such a cool airplane. That'll be a really neat model.
Yeah. I'm really looking forward to kind of getting it. There's also like a paper replica model. And they do an amazing, the detail on those are incredible. So what I want to do is kind of like get that set to the right scale and print them out and use those to do the interior modeling and kind of help me do some of the details in there, because I think kind of finding a way to marry the two will yield some really, like even just because I'm going to have landing gear. So having that landing gear inset where they have like all the interior piping and all that kind of stuff, is, even if it's just a graphic.
Hydraulic lines, all that stuff, that'll look great.
It should look really awesome. And then looking at some pictures from some of the Smithsonian and there's actually one in Virginia, just outside of DC. So they have one there. I'm thinking next time I drop off the kids, maybe instead of coming back, I'll head up there and see if I can't actually take a quick look and take a ton of pictures.
Awesome.
Anyway, so I'm working on that, which is great. It's starting to come together and looking good. I'm hoping to get that off my dining room table because I am going to have people over, and I'd like to remove it from the table built rather than in pieces. So, and then of course over Thanksgiving break, we just, I don't know, got in contact with a couple of guys at the field, and we all just sort of showed up with our stuff. And I flew the Prandtl wing. And from one of the guys was like, hey, I said, I'd love to fly this with you. And then I kind of came up with a brainstorm of why something wasn't working at first. And I was like, oh, that's it. One of those, like, I feel like it's the Griswolds where he flips on the light in the back room and all of a sudden everything turns on. And like, oh, that's what it is, So have one of those moments when, okay, let's see. Now look, we'll see if this takes off. Like if it takes off, you're in for a good show. And the guy was like, oh, I'm looking for it, because we were talking about the Prandtl wing like last time we had all gotten together. So I was able to take off, and I've got the battery set exactly right. So I know when I put the batteries in this spot, I put the throttle to full and it'll take off, I'll get it in the air. And so I was able to fly around for, and they're like, man, that thing's still in the air. I'm like, yeah, it'll fly for like 15 minutes on a 2200. It's got like a little 2205 quad motor on like 3S running with a 2200 and a bunch of ballast up front because it's a flying plank.
It needs it. Yeah.
It needs it to fly right. But once it does, it just cruises around the sky. I'm like, well, that's like,
Awesome.
they really enjoyed seeing it. And I was happy to have it up there. I took the Prandtl Arrow, which is like, the flight test has like that little flying wing deal. And people are like, can we put the Prandtl twist on that thing? I'm like, let's do it, So I built one of those and I flew it. I brought it out for the maiden and I flew it and lost it in the sun. And I don't know what happened, but it just started fluttering and came to the ground. I'm like, oh, heck. Kind of busted a little bit. So I picked it up. I brought it home, figure out what was, glued it back together, put some tape on it, traditional foam board methods. And then I went out to the other field, and I did get it flying for a little while. But it was an absolute handful. So I clearly had it at, or maybe even behind the CG point, and it was flying. So the hard part with that one is what I didn't realize at first was I need absolute full throws, full up elevator when I'm launching. And then as it starts to finally gain speed, I pull back on that and then I can actually fly it. So I needed the nose a little bit further. But anyway, so flew that. So there was some success there, but it's not a wild success. I'm hoping I can find a way to make it so that anybody could take that and go. I flew the flight test style, which is like the segmented instead of the rounded top. Actually, do segmented. It's a little bit stronger. I flew that, but it was hard. The roll weight was too little, so I was flying it just fine, but it was hard to come back out of the roll. So when it was off kilter, I had to bring it back. It was hard. I flew my Cub. which I kind of brought back from the dead. I flew my T6 Texan, which is pretty cool because everybody had their T28s. Wait, is that what they are? They look a lot like the Texan, the Trojan.
I don't know.
Yeah,
Yeah,
T28.
yeah. So a lot of people had T28s, and a couple of them had T6s. So we basically took ours and threw them all up in the air, and we had a whole crud ton of them flying around for a while. And
Wow.
I had the Hangar RC's T6 Texan, and all of us were flying around, and I just had a 2200 3-cell, and that everybody came down, and I'm still floating around, flying and flying and flying. They're like, "What have you got in that thing?" I'm like, "It's just a 2200, man. It's not much." And they're like, "You're still flying?" I'm like,
Awesome.
"Yeah, we're still doing acrobatics. I could do this all day long." And they're like, "That's really awesome." They
So
really.
were they flying balsa models or?
There was some balsa models. There were some big scale foamies. There was just store, pretty like Motion RC's one where it's like a
Okay.
park flyer, all different sizes, all different makes and models. They all flew, like a Texan. So, and a Trojan. They're beginner, they're trainer planes, so they flew great. So,
Okay.
yeah, it just flew a whole crud ton of stuff and had a blast. I put together my voltmeter, which I'm going to use in the build section later. I'll talk about that.
Okay.
Now we talked about Red. We talked a little bit earlier to Red. I'm doing my full scale pilot training. And so I did get a little flurry of going out to the field a bunch or going out to the airport. And we practiced lots of landings. And I've been basically studying, all the stuff that I'm not good at, because I
Mhm.
know I want to get that, the written test done. So lots of landings. I'm trying to find a way to grease that landing. So Red gave me a couple
It'll
points, maybe
it'll
worth a
click.
nickel.
It'll click one day. All of a sudden
Yeah,
you go, oh, okay, that's it. I got it.
that's what I was doing. Okay, cool, good. Yeah, and I think I'm getting closer. So I'm excited. I've scheduled cross country, so we're almost at that point, and I know I'm very close to the solo. So keep your ears peeled, and I'll let you know how that goes when we get there.
Awesome.
Do we have any listener comments, Joe, that you saw?
We did have one. So Tony had reached out to us after the last episode. He said, just listen to episode 38 regarding the gloss black versus matte olive / black. And this is in regards to
The P61 Black Widow paint
right.
color.
He said they discovered that the gloss finish would reflect any light and blend into the stars. The matte finish could be spotted by a trained eye because it would cause a hole in
It's
the
like a
field of
black hole.
stars.
I can tell you. I can tell you exactly how that works. So we did something similar in my previous job, and he's absolutely right. That's 100% correct.
Yeah, that's so
Nice.
cool. Yeah, I conjectured that it created small reflections that, because it's gloss, that the reflected light that for the searchlights would be so small that it'd be hard to see at the distance.
Yep.
But it makes even more sense that it blends in. It makes it even harder because it's indistinguishable. Cool.
That's just wild because I would have expected a matte finish to blend in better than a gloss.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it creates a hole in the background, and when it reflects a little bit, you're seeing some of the ambient light around,
Yeah.
and
That's
it sort of blends in better.
That's cool. Well, thanks, Tony. Appreciate that.
We've got a build night coming up. No, we got a sim night coming up, is it?
We have both, actually.
Okay, so it's either one or...
Well, no. On Friday night, we're going to do a sim night where we just
Okay.
sit. I don't know how much I'm going to be able to make it for that. I might be pretty busy. I got to double check on those dates. But basically, yeah, it looks like December. That doesn't make sense. It should be part of the 17th and December the 18th.
Yeah. So still to be finalized, but we're looking at Friday night, December 17th. So that'll be the Friday after this episode comes out. 8 to 11 p.m. is the sim night. That's where we'll get together and fly the simulators. We're flying Phoenix RC 6.0, so you need to get that all patched up because that's where the multiplayer comes in. And then the following afternoon, Saturday, December 18th, Matthew, you're going to be doing a build afternoon 11 a.m. Well, I say in the afternoon, but 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. Eastern time.
How about this? It'll be the 18th or the 19th, and I'll determine that after I determine when I'm traveling my kids up to their mothers. So I will determine that. We haven't decided on the date, and I might be able to push that back. If I can, I will.
Okay.
In which case, Sunday would be a better day. But either way, I wanted to do one in the afternoon so that way we could all we could reach out to our European audience as well.
There you go. So
Good.
keep an eye out on, say, Discord, but also the Facebook page that we have. That'll be down in the show notes because Matthew creates the events there so that folks can see what the plan is.
Yeah, and if you sign in and agree to the event, then and say you're going, you'll get reminders that it's coming. That way you don't forget it.
So in December 17th is a poignant day, right? You guys know what that is?
No, what day is that?
Oh, come on, you're killing me.
I'm sorry, man.
December 17th, 1903 is when the Wright brothers flew.
Awesome.
Matthew.
We haven't covered all of that. I should know better, really, is what it comes down to. I didn't know
we should
that.
have both known better.
I'm a nerd that way, so I'm like Rain Man with dates, I guess, at least with airplanes.
No, that's cool. That's awesome.
I feel terrible for not knowing that now.
Well, if you're in the sim night, pull out the Wright Flyer because there's one in there somewhere.
There you go.
I'm sure. And I think we'll all have a fly for a little bit and a Wright Flyer.
They fly horribly.
That's it. I know. I have yet to be able to build one that works well for me. I was trying to build a small scale one to fly in the cul-de-sac,
Well, same with the Wright brothers and everybody else who's tried to build a replica. They just fly crappy. That's not a good design.
It isn't, but it's okay. It flew, and that was the important part.
Yeah. Yep.
Nice. All right. Well, Joe, we're going to go to our plane history section. And Joe's got one for us. Which plane do you have today?
We're going to talk briefly about the Boeing B-17, the Flying Fortress. Now, I really wish that I would be able to do this plane proper justice. I just don't think I'm going to be able to.
Well, look, with all of these, we scratch the surface. If you're building one, this gives you a little bit of background information. But as with almost every single one of these planes, people have written books and built careers around each of these individual planes. So,
yeah.
That said, it's just, what do we know?
Okay, so especially after doing the last one I did,
Spitfire, I think.
No, it was more recent than that. It wasn't the Corsair. It was the it was the two twin tail boom.
P-37. P-38, sorry.
Yeah, P-38.
Lightning.
Yep. So after doing the Lightning and seeing what the original requirements were for, I was glad to see that there was information on what was the aim for the B-17.
Mm-hmm.
So the B-17 was Boeing's answer to the thank you for this, Pat, from our last episode, the United States Army Air Corps, USAAC. They're the ones who put out the requirements for what they're looking for with new designs. And the requirements at the time for this one was that it be able to carry a, quote, useful bomb load at 10,000 feet for 10 hours with a top speed of at least 200 miles an hour. Optional but desirable was to have a range of 2,000 miles and a speed of 250 miles per hour.
That's a pretty good goal.
This began, yeah, it was. So this began Boeing as the Model 299. It would later be designated the YB-17 and then the B-17, and it had a whole slew of variants with different loadouts and armaments and configurations. I won't go into all those, but at the time, as I understand, Boeing was on the verge of bankruptcy, and that's when the USAAC put out the call for this. And so Boeing kind of threw everything that they had left into trying to get this contract, trying to get this prototype done, hoping it would be the thing that would pull them out of it. And on some level, it was. You know, they had good performance. There were the military guys were impressed and interested in it. That said, they did ultimately get disqualified from the contract because their prototype ended up stalling and crashing and killing its 2 pilots during one of its flights. But ultimately, another 65 were ordered for further trial and assessment.
Okay.
And then we weren't in World War II yet at the time, but these began seeing service in the Royal Air Force in 1941. And our British allies found that there were issues with the plane at high altitude where the weapons were freezing up due to the temperatures up there. Go ahead, Matt.
No, it's just one of those things, I guess, I don't really think too much on, but as I realize, like, no, once you get up past a certain altitude, any bit of moisture is really kind of dangerous because it almost immediately ices because the temperatures are cold and freezing.
Yeah. And remember when we talked about the Spitfire had the same problem with its guns freezing up. And some of the things they had to do there, briefly rewinding the Spitfire, they had to duct engine exhaust into the weapon bays to kind of keep the guns warm. And they put, that's going to be a problem. I just spilt my drink on my keyboard.
You want to address that?
It'll be fine. With the B-17, because it had a bunch of turrets on it, top, bottom, and I believe tail section. So, like, all of its weapons were largely exposed. And so, yes, like you say, all that moisture in the air, it would ice up. They were also having problems with the engines being largely underpowered for what they ultimately needed to do. Now, I don't know if that was necessarily an issue strictly at high altitude. I can revisit that here in just a second. Another issue they were having was accuracy with bomb drops at high altitude. So they were flying up at 30,000 feet, dropping bombs, and they were dropping wide of their targets.
How do you expect to be accurate 30,000 feet? I mean, come on.
That's where the Norden bomb sight comes in. That was one of the biggest revelations of the World War II.
Yeah, I want to know more about that. That's for sure. Mainly because I want to build a little miniature RC one so that I have a bomb sight and I can just like, I'm just saying, I've been wanting to do that for a long time because they have those 3-way switchers for the FPV cameras. So you set one for the camera, one for like a tail, follow chase cam kind of deal, and one for like the bomb sight. It's all set awesome. Up with that. Yeah, that's what I want to do. Anyway, that's a digress. Sorry about that, Joe.
No, you're good. And ultimately, for this and other bombers, they overcame those issues with accuracy. Yeah, I was just starting to look into getting how they were doing that when we were getting ready to come on.
Okay.
But largely, the bombers would have to take into account all the variables of the plane that they had. So airspeed, direction, altitude, wind speed beneath them, distance target. They had to plug all that into their sighting mechanisms to then be able to get accurate drops. So as I understand, they did get more accurate. And at the time, I think the Royal Air Force higher ups more recommended flying these bombers at lower altitude to help with getting better accuracy.
Yeah. How did that sight end up actually helping? Like, what did it improve?
You're asking me stuff I didn't get a chance to
No.
read.
I'm talking to Red. I'm sorry. Because Red is going to know a lot about that sight.
So the Norden bomb sight, it's spelled Norden if you want to Google it. And
I will.
Essentially, it was an analog computer. And, just like Joe was talking about, you could plug in all the pertinent parameters into the bomb sight, and it would compute a course and a speed and a drop point. And, it's a ballistic trajectory, so that's fairly easy to plot. But when you have ground track and wind, and all these things that affect it, you're kind of guessing. But this Norden bomb sight sort of standardized targeting, and basically won us the war. I mean, it can't be understated how important this thing was. And they fitted them in B-17s and B-24s, and I believe we even gave them to the British as well. But absolutely incredible piece of history. And if you get to go to the Smithsonian, they have one on display that you can check out.
Yeah, that is a very unusual looking piece of machinery.
It's
Yeah, it
it's
is.
insanely complex, but it needed to be to get the job done. So yeah,
Yeah,
pretty incredible.
cool. Thank you. Now,
Well, Matt, maybe one of these episodes, rather than talk about plane, we just talk about the Nordum device.
yeah, right. Okay. I mean, not right away. That sounds like I've got some research to do. But it's research I'll be happy to do, because if there's a way I'll call it recreate something similar to this, even if it's something a little bit more rudimentary, because it's RC, it doesn't have to be crazy accurate, but it would be nice to do a bomb targeting competition and actually be pretty accurate. That'd be
Mhm.
pretty amazing, something where like, let's say you have the computers for the quadcopters, where they have the altitude
Yeah,
stuff, and
flight
it
control
takes the
computer.
information there and
Yep.
actually changes your targeting, you know, or maybe changes the angle of the FPV, so that way your crosshairs are set at the proper location on the ground. So when you see that bomb sight go underneath your FPV camera, and you release it, you know what's happening.
You can have fun with that.
Oh, I will. Well, tell us more about the B-17. Like, how many people did it take to run, and
Yeah, so
specs?
it had a crew of 10, and I want to get back to that here in a second. A couple other tidbits, and then we'll get into its stats and performance and all that. And some of the at this point, I'm pulling this from memory on a documentary that I kind of watched a few minutes of. If I remember correctly, the B-17 was the United States' first bit of combat in World War II, when it engaged a Japanese fleet that it was doing reconnaissance on out in the Pacific.
Okay.
This was after Pearl Harbor. A bunch of
Right.
them had been blown up at Pearl Harbor, but they were out flying recon, saw them, and then opted to engage. And I believe they sunk at least one ship out there. Again, that was sort of a section I was watching, but ultimately it became iconic in the European theater once they overcame some of the issues that was plaguing it early on.
Mm-hmm.
Now, getting into its stats, it was a 10-man crew. You had your pilot, your co-pilot, a navigator, a bombardier / nose gunner. So apparently that was the same seat. You had your flight engineer, who also served as top turret gunner. You had your radio operator. You had two. I'm sorry, what's that, Red?
No, I was just waving a flyaway.
Oh, I'm sorry. You had two waist gunners, a ball turret gunner, and a tail gunner. And all these, just this thing had a bunch of daggum guns on it. And this is why they called it the Flying Fortress.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, you can't come at this any which way and not be under threat of getting shot.
Mm-hmm. That said, and I'd have to look and verify. I think I heard that this thing was basically just aluminum wrap, so it's not like it had a bunch of armor to it.
Done.
Yeah. No, but it had to be aluminum wrap to be lightweight enough to get it all up in the air.
Yeah.
So no armor could be torn apart, but you had to make it through its defenses first.
The one of the interesting things that I found about the B-17 is having grown up and watched them on TV and documentaries and got to see a couple in person. I finally had the chance to climb through one a few years back, and it's insanely claustrophobic. There is not hardly any room in those aircraft. You enter through the back, and you got to walk across the top of the bomb bay. And I was able to get to every position except for the ball turret, and you have no room. It's amazing how tight it is. You look from the outside and you're like, oh, that's a giant airplane, but you actually have to crawl through it, and there is no room inside whatsoever. And then you got to think about these guys wearing these heavy winter outfits to fly at 30 and 40,000 feet that were electrically heated.
Yeah.
big giant, mitts to work the guns and all these things. And they were essentially, there was a big wind tunnel, when the bomb bay's open, freezing air is blowing through the thing, and they're not airtight, and they're, not heated leather seats or anything like that we're used to now. So
Oh, right.
I have a ton of respect for, what I believe was the greatest generation and what they had to go through to protect our freedoms. It's just amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we talked about the P-30A. I'm terrible with those numbers, but the Lightning.
The P-38 Lightning.
P-38.
And just what you're saying, in the European front, the pilots of that plane were having the same problems because they were trying to run the bomber escorts, and they were just freezing because they didn't have the benefit of the central front motor like the Spitfire and the Mustang had.
That's right.
Yeah, where the exhaust was essentially heating their cabin.
Right.
But you're talking about it being a big plane. This plane was 74 feet in length, had a wingspan of 103, almost 104 feet. It was 19 feet tall, so it's big, like you say. But that's just wild to hear that the inside was so tight,
so claustrophobic inside, and yet it's looking at the P-61, like the pilot and the gunners probably got the best seat, but like just to get in between the front and the back has got to be like this little tiny crawl space. I can't even imagine.
It's not built for comfort at all. It's amazing to me how many airplanes are like that. It's like, when you get into a car, it's fairly easy to get in and out of a car or something like that. But even getting into a modern airliner, like the aisle is blocked, you have to step over equipment to get into the seat. So it's not like you're packed in there pretty tight.
Mm.
Yeah. And then you're supposed to be there for 10 hours, Good
right.
luck.
Don't move. Yeah.
Jeez.
Anyway, so what else about this?
Let's see. So empty weight was 36,000 pounds, so a little over 15 tons. 18 tons at that point. Its max takeoff weight was 65,500 pounds. It was a four-engine plane. At least the B-17G, which is the stats I'm looking at, was running 4 of the Wright R1820-97 motors. This is Cyclone supercharged radial engines. Those were 1,200 horsepower each.
1,200 horsepower.
Yeah,
that's a lot of get up and go.
Wasn't enough. They
I know.
Staggered off the ground at full load.
Oh, jeez. I can imagine.
Yeah. I mean, these guys were loaded for bear. And again, talking about the G variant, maximum speed was 287 miles an hour. Cruise speed was 182. It did have a 2,000 mile range with its 6,000 pound bomb load. Service ceiling 35,600 feet. Climb rate 900 feet a minute. That's sort of its performance section. Nice. Briefly about the armaments. Guns, it had now I'm just kind of reading my notes here. It had 13 half-inch M2 Browning machine guns, which we've heard of before from our previous.
That's a lot of guns.
Yep, 9 positions. 2 in the Bendix chin turret, 2 on the nose cheeks, 2 staggered waist guns, 2 in the upper Sperry turret, 2 in the Sperry ball turret in the belly, 2 in the tail, and 1 firing upwards from radio compartment behind the bomb bay.
Take that.
Bombs, short range missions, it'd run 8,000 pound bomb load.
Right, because you didn't have to load up on fuel, so you could add more bombs to that.
Long range missions, it'd run 4,500 pounds of bombs, and it says max internal and external load was 17,600, so I'm not sure what that's necessarily equating to. At short range missions at that 8,000 pounds, about less than 400 miles. Yeah. And the long range missions at 4,500 pounds was about 800 miles.
You almost double that.
But yeah, I wonder if that range is, because that range should be out and then back. So
you're usually right.
Double that for its total.
I mean, that's still a long way.
Yeah, it's a lot of flying. And then the last tidbit of information I got, and then I think Red, you said you might have had a couple bits to add. This is something interesting. Nancy Love, who served as the pilot and Betty Gillies, who served as the co-pilot, were the first women to fly the B-17 for the Women Air Force Service Pilots, which I'm not really familiar with that side of it, so I wouldn't mind doing a little more research into that. But
Yep.
they were the first two women to pilot it.
Yeah,
Nice.
they're called WASPs, and there's a huge thing about the WASPs, and women weren't allowed to be combat pilots, but they ferried and test flew every airplane in the inventory, and with a high degree of skill, and again, their sort of contribution can't really be understated. So if you're interested in that at all, just Google WASPs, and you'll get more than your fair share.
But if you need to, also put Women Air Force Service Pilots,
yes,
because WASP might come up with a couple other things you may not like if you're afraid of wasps, or white Anglo-Saxon Protestants, it could be that too. So anyway, you never know what you get with the internet, so be careful.
Thank you for that, Matt. I'm so innocent. I'm thinking it's going to be exactly what I'm searching for.
Right. It should be Air Force. Well, I mean, with our collective search history, I'm sure it'll come up with Air Force stuff and pilot stuff first, but not everybody has that.
So, I have a couple of artifacts that I wanted to show you guys. And unfortunately, I can only locate one of them. The house painters are here right now. They're painting the inside of my house. And so I have not really a man cave, but I have an entertainment center that's got part of my book collection and some artifacts on it. So one of the things I have is a clock out of a B-17. I picked it up at a flea market years ago, and it still works. We put power to it and it still works, but it's just a display piece. But I don't know where that's at. But I did find this, which it's just a box here. We'll open the box here in a minute. But I bought this in the early to mid 1980s at an air show. There was a vendor there selling surplus parts, and this is a connecting rod out of a Wright 1820. So this is a connecting rod out of the B-17. Yeah. And this was brand new when I bought it. It was still wrapped in cosmetic. Well, not brand new old stock, I guess they would call it. You can still, I don't know if you can see, but there's serial numbers all stamped in here.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that is a thick piece of metal.
Yeah, and I have lots of things like this, but one of the interesting things about this, not a lot of people know, is that this particular part and many parts for the B-17, particularly the engines, were built by Singer Sewing Machine Company. So even though this isn't a Wright aeronautical box, the wax paper that this was wrapped in said Singer on it. So so during the war, many companies were repurposed to help with the war effort, and Singer Sewing Machine, because of the precision that they could achieve with their machining instruments for building sewing machines, lent itself to building lots of other things, and one of them being connecting rods. So this is one of my prized, not worth a damn thing, but cool to have, aviation relics.
That's so awesome. That's really, thank you so much for sharing. It's, how long is that rod? Was it about like 18, 24 inches somewhere?
I can measure it for you. Give me a second.
That is really interesting. I'll tell you what, I sometimes forget like the Super Fortress is just armed for bear. Like it is an awful amount of armaments on one plane.
Center to center, it's about 11 inches.
11 inches, okay.
Overall, it's about 13.
I mean, you compare that to like the size of that part on the equivalent of like a car, right? I mean, it's
it's massive, big displacement.
Yeah, very big. You're looking at a massive engine, so. And
I'm going to be the dummy for a minute.
Yeah,
and just confirm the connecting rod. That's going from the piston to the camshaft, right?
Piston to the crank.
For the crankshaft.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right. Camshaft is valves. Got it.
That's right. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, those are massive engines.
Yeah. So cool. Is there anything else you need to add, or should we talk to Red about how that compares to the Reno Air Race engines?
Well, I'll go ahead and let you have it at this point. That's the notes I had.
Okay, cool.
Well, it's 1,820 cubic inches. So I don't know what kind of car you drive, but most cars are 2 liters or less. So you're looking at like 130 cubic inches or something like that in your average Econobox car. So the displacement is massive in comparison.
Yeah, you were talking
Jeez.
about the Flying Fortress displacement.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, how does that compare to the Reno Racers you're involved with?
Well, the ones I'm involved with are it's called Formula One, and it's the oldest continuous racing class that's currently still racing in anywhere around the world, really. And they're limited to 200 cubic inches. So,
Okay.
um, have you ever flown in a Cessna 150, for
Yes.
instance, or a 152? So,
Hmm.
same engine that's in those that takes your Cessna 150 to barely 100 miles an hour.
Right.
We'll take a Formula One plane, in optimum conditions in a straight line, close to 300 miles an hour, and about 250 miles an hour for the fast guys on the race course.
Good night.
Wow.
Yeah,
I mean, that's as fast as the bomber was going on a good day.
yeah, yeah. But they're short range
Yeah.
thoroughbreds, and barely can fit one person in them. So it's all a design compromise, which is entirely what airplanes are about anyway. It's all just a big bag of compromises.
Right. You're
Um,
running up a limit somewhere,
that's right.
depending on what your
Yeah,
mission is.
that's right.
Nice. Okay. Well,
That's
so
why we have so many different types.
yeah, exactly. So let's kind of back up a little bit. We invited Red to come on here and talk to us a little bit. A couple months ago, he was at the Reno Air Races, which is Reno, Nevada, right, Red?
That's right. Yeah.
And it's basically, you're going to talk more about what it is. But basically, he was out there. One of the things that reminded me when we talked to him last, he said, "Hey, I'm involved with this every year." And I said, "Hey, when we get closer to that, I would love to talk to you either before or after, so it's fresh in your mind." And he, when it happened, you were gracious enough to take some live video of just what was going on and doing a little bit of commentary. And it is really very interesting. What I would equate it to probably would be like pylon racing for RC.
Yeah.
I mean, that's not entirely accurate and not fair, but
It's
at the same point,
it's pretty close. It's the longest running and biggest closed course pylon air racing, on the planet. There have been other races. Reno has been going since 1964, I want to say.
okay.
So it's been going a long time. This year was my 38th year that I've attended.
Wow,
I've been
awesome.
very fortunate enough to keep doing that. And yeah, it's a ton of fun. And as I was telling you earlier, I'm an aviation junkie, so I tend to gravitate towards the extreme end of aviation,
Mm-hmm.
both in design and and air racing. I just like to see people extract the most they can out of whatever combination they might have. It extends to everything I fly in RC as well. I'm
Yeah.
always looking to optimize it to the nth degree. So um, I love the air racing. It holds a huge special place in my heart. Um, my parents took me. The first year was 1979 that I was able to go, and it's been just a massive part of my life ever since then.
Okay, that's awesome. Yeah, it's really special to have something that is just I'll call it an icon of every year, right? It's just one of
Yeah.
those things that there's why would we not go? Something better be terribly wrong.
Well,
Um,
if you're into aviation and particularly into warbirds, um, you will not see another place where there are 8 highly modified World War II fighter aircraft
mhm,
flying well in excess of their design speed. I mean, pushed to the absolute limit. This is the only place they do that. And 50
yeah,
feet off the ground, 500 miles an hour. It's
that's
something that you just have to experience.
that's terrifying and amazing. Like
It
that's
can be.
really
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah, it
Um,
can be.
but yeah, I can only imagine, what it must be like to be flying that, Um,
Yeah, I have not competed yet. That's obviously my long-term goal. I've been around the course several times, in
okay.
non-race scenarios, and I can only imagine how amazing it must be as well.
Is a track, for the Formula One, is it set up like a Monaco where it's almost like a slalom, or is it more of a circular
No,
oval track
they're
like you'd
they're
find in your
all ovals, and
okay?
that's done for safety, right? So if
Mm-hmm.
you're doing, say, a slalom or coming back and forth, there's a very high likelihood that you're gonna not see somebody in midair. I mean, there's there's a high likelihood anyway, because they're all flying at these high speeds, and
And
you're watching out for each other and as best you can, but
uh,
accidents happen once in a while.
they're
So
they're more than one plane flying at the same time, right? It's not like a time
there,
trial where you're comparing
it's not.
times.
So a lot of people that have never seen, Reno think of it like Red Bull, because Red Bull got a lot of coverage. It's very cool stuff, but
Hmm.
that's one guy on a course against a clock doing these, gyrations left and right, all this stuff. This
Yeah.
is um, multiple aircraft at the same time, um, flying in a circular course around a marked set of pylons. And there are
Hmm.
different courses for the different classes. They're different lengths
Right.
based on their speed, essentially, in class. Um, so yeah, it's people call it uncooperative formation. So you're all racing, and you're flying in formation with your buddies or whatever, but you're still trying to beat them. So
Yeah.
um, it's absolutely racing for sure.
That's so awesome. So let's go a little bit about, let's learn a little bit more about, if you could teach us a little bit about the Reno Air Races. You said it's been the longest running continuous air race.
Yeah,
When did it start? And like what race did it start? And then what categories are available now?
sure. So there's a lot there. There's to unpack, and I'll give you sort of the abbreviated, um, history. I think the first race was probably when two airplanes were on the field at the same time for the first time, right? And they started the race. But
Yeah,
um,
probably.
the first recognized air race was either in 1909 or 1912 in Reims, France. I can't remember exactly off the top of my head. I think it's
Hmm.
'09. And there have been, air races, both cross country and closed course. Pylon is closed course, right? You're at one
Yeah.
spot, just going around in circles. Um, since then, uh, the closed course pylon racing was very popular pre-war, and
Hmm.
obviously the war put a stop to it. And they started racing again. This is mostly in Cleveland. They started racing again, and there was a terrible crash. A P-51 Mustang called Beguine, flown by a guy named Bill Odom, crashed into a house,
Hmm.
killed a mother and her child, as well as Bill, and that ended the national air races at Cleveland. So it was probably, I want to say that was 47 or 48, something like that.
Okay. Shortly
Uh,
after
another
the
guy
war
named,
ended.
yeah, another guy named Bill Stead, who was a hydroplane racer, sort of started up the races again in 1964, and they were held at a place called Sky Ranch, I think it was called, which is near where they are now, but the permanent home has been there since the late '60s. The
Okay.
field is Stead Field, which is named after Bill Stead, and they've been going, in perpetuity since then. There have been 2 years where we didn't race. One was 2020 because of COVID,
Hmm.
and the other one was 2001 because the September 11th terrorist attacks interrupted the air races. But it's been otherwise continuously going.
Well, so speaking about what time of year do the Reno air races happen?
Third weekend in September. Every it's the same. You can set your watch by it.
Okay.
The dates change because of the way that weekend falls in the calendar, but it's always about that same time. And you
Okay.
can go to airrace.org and
Hmm.
look at all the dates for it's already set for next year and things like that. So
Okay.
yeah, it's my wife knows that I disappear for a week to 11 or 12 days every September.
Wow.
A lot of times it was just for a day, or I would drive up, and I used to live fairly close to it. It was only about a 4-hour drive, so I could go up for a day or two. But now I'm pretty heavily involved with a team, and so this last time was 12 days. I think I was gone.
Wow, that's awesome. So is it mostly like the amenities out there? Are they pretty much like bring your camper, bring your tent, or is it?
Well, it's just an airport, and you can camp on site, and a lot of folks do. I usually stay in a hotel, and the hotel's 15 minutes away or something.
Okay.
So the air races are in Stead, which is not actually it's called Reno, but it's a little burb outside of Reno proper, I guess. But yeah, it's 10 or 15 minutes drive to the hotel, so you can get everything that you need. Um,
Okay.
spend the day at the airfield, and then go home and take a shower and have dinner or whatever.
Yeah, that's good. Um, let's see. So they race for multiple days. So they do a bunch of like how about this? Let's talk about what are the classifications nowadays?
Sure. So there are, I want to say 6 classes. I might have to count here. There might be 7. So the class that am most heavily involved in is called Formula One, and it
Mm-hmm.
is the oldest class. It's been racing since pre-war times in different forms. But these are the only out of all the racing classes. Formula One is the only class that uses purpose-built aircraft. They're not built for cross country, or they're not repurposed military aircraft. They are designed and built specifically as racing vehicles. Um, so there's a formula, a set of rules that basically the airplane has to weigh a minimum of 500 pounds. It has to have 66 square feet of wing area, and it has to have a specific engine that has to conform to a certain set of specifications,
It is a
and a few other.
Continental O200.
Yep, or a
Um,
or a C or a Lycoming O200 or Continental C85.
yep, that's
Both
it.
both of those are legal, and there are a few other safety related rules, and things that you have to abide by for racing and things like that. But the class is wide open to designers, and that's what
Nice.
really attracted me to it, and the whole reason I started building my own project is because with a limited set of horsepower, it's really an aerodynamics problem,
Mm-hmm.
and that is, that's what makes me get up in the morning is, those sorts of challenges. So
Right.
that's why I really love that class. Um, the next class up is the biplane class, and typically you'll see pit specials and Mongs and things like that. There have been a few purpose-built biplanes over the years.
Mm-hmm.
So you can design and build a plane and compete in that class and be competitive. But the vast majority of them are either kit built or plans built or even factory built, pits type aircraft, aerobatic aircraft that are repurposed to race.
Gotcha.
The next class up is, well, I shouldn't say the next class up, but another class is called the sport class,
Mm-hmm.
and they're typically 2-seat airplanes like Glassairs, Lancers,
Mm-hmm.
some faster RVs, F1 rockets, things like that. And as far as the go fast guys go, the sport class is really the class to watch right now. They're by far the most technically advanced. You're seeing, fuel injected, water cooled, twin turbo, big horsepower engines, putting out 1,000 horsepower or more out of, 500 and some cubic inches. And
Wow.
the heyday of the unlimited class, which we'll talk about, the unlimited class is like World War II fighters, P-51s,
Okay.
that sort of thing. Sea Furies, Bearcats. Um, the days of the really, really fast unlimited class are in hiatus right now. There just aren't too many of those guys still around. The pilots are aging out. It costs a metric ton of money to
Yeah.
maintain and field one of these aircraft. The aircraft are worth more stock than they are as a race airplane. So it
Mm-hmm.
doesn't make much fiscal sense to do that. So um, all that to say is, an unlimited plane, the record is like 507 mile an hour race speed and like 512 miles an hour lap speed average, right?
Okay.
Insanely fast.
Yeah.
Those days are now they're 430 to 450 mile an hour
Okay.
race speeds for the unlimiteds. But the sport class is going over 400 miles an hour with these tiny little two-place, Lancers and Glassairs.
Yeah, they
Um,
are sleek looking birds.
Beautiful airplanes, full composite carbon fiber, the latest airfoils and aero trickery and pumped up engines. So that to me is one of the more exciting classes now. I really, really like the sport class.
Yeah.
Um,
I mean, if you look at a lot of the 3D printed planes that are available now, like I'll call it the Shark, is one that's kind of free or whatever. It's modeled after a sport thing. It's real, just kind of sleek looking. Where,
Sleek and sexy looking. Yeah.
mm-hmm, it's like
Yep.
there's just a bubble just to fit enough around somebody to like
Yep.
come and just sweep back into a thin tail.
Yep.
Yeah, it's really neat looking. Anyway,
So sport class planes are primarily kit airplanes, although there have been purpose-built racers in the past. The Nemesis NXT is an example of that, and I think
mm-hmm,
they used to have a rule where you had to build 5 kits for your plane to be eligible. I don't know if that's still the case or not, but
Okay.
um,
Is that just so that you have the chops to be able to build one safely?
no, it's more about making sure somebody doesn't have deep pockets and build a one-off and just make the class not fun. So they want, the Lancers and the Glass Airs and some of the faster
I
RVs
gotcha.
and things like that to be able to compete. That was the intent of the class. Um,
Okay, I
the
gotcha.
next one, starting to get into military aircraft, is the T6 class or AT6 Texan. You can also run an SNJ, and that
Hmm.
is most like a stock car class, or most like, say, a NASCAR class. Very,
Right.
very tightly controlled out of all the classes. That one probably has the most rules of what you can and cannot do. Like, you can't clip the wings, you can't,
Hmm.
cut the canopy down. So it's a super stock class, and that breeds some very, very close racing. Those airplanes, it's usually just a knife fight. They're all stacked on top of each other, and really, really close racing.
I was going to say any kind of stock car. That's usually the point of it is to then start highlighting pilot skills.
That's right.
You know.
And they're stock, but some are more stock than others. And
Yeah.
there's a disparity of probably 20 or 30 miles an hour, maybe more, between the fastest guys and the slowest guys. So I think the class record is somewhere around 250 miles an hour,
Hmm.
and maybe the slow guys are just cracking 200. So they're all the classes are broken up into divisions. So there's a gold, a silver, and a bronze division, and your qualifying speed seats you in one of those classes. So they're
Okay.
like speeds in each class.
Right. So you, if you're in that class, you're not competing against somebody who's just way outside your league.
That's right. So the intent is, one is safety, but two is, um, you get better, you go faster, you move up.
Yeah.
And they offer trophies. If you win the bronze class, you still get a trophy for a win because you're winning your class, right?
Hmm.
But everybody knows that to win the gold class that's where it's at.
Of course.
So those are all, ex World War II military trainers in that class. The next class, which is arguably the coolest class, is the Unlimiteds, and those are World War II fighters. Predominantly, there have been some scratch-built planes in that as well, and their only rules are piston engine, propeller driven, and a minimum weight of 4,500 pounds. That's it.
Okay.
You can do anything you want otherwise.
Oh wow.
So, is there a case where somebody could build a home built airplane and go really fast? Yeah, absolutely. But
Yeah.
the easiest way to do it is with a P-51 Mustang or a Bearcat or a Sea Fury. Um,
And
there's also been Spitfires that have raced in Zeros and all kinds of stuff that, um, while not necessarily competitive, if you're not on a Mustang, a Sea Fury, or a highly modified Bearcat, you're not competitive.
is that
But
because those motors, stock engines and configurations on those are just superior performance
that's
compared
that's
to others of its general class?
yeah, that's probably the basics of it. But I would also say that those motors and those airframes lend themselves well to modification,
Okay.
for going fast. So, like, for instance, the P-51 has a laminar flow airfoil, which is
Right.
a high-speed airfoil. It's one of the things that made it a great fighter escort. Um, so it's already got the right wing on it to go fast.
Hmm.
Whereas something like a Spitfire or something like that doesn't necessarily lend itself to going really, really fast. 400 to 500
Hmm.
miles an hour. There's no zero on the planet ever went that fast. Probably not even after we shot them down and the wings were gone. They're just not that fast. So, the rule for unlimited, is pretty basic. You get a Mustang or a Sea Fury, and much less so. There's only been two really fast Bearcats, and you hop up the engine and clip the wings and smooth it out and whatever.
Hmm. I think when I was at the Air Museum in Connecticut, visiting my mother, there was a P-51 that was a clipped wing, racer. Um, so it was clearly from that kind of thing.
You remember, was it yellow?
I don't know. You know what? As we talk, I can look it up real quick because I did take a picture.
Oh, cool. Well, the only reason I ask is because there's a
Yep.
pretty famous P-51 Mustang flown by a guy named Jenson, and he was the first guy to cut the belly scoop off a Mustang and put radiators inside the wings. And fairly famous airplane.
That definitely happened on this model. The radiators were in the wings. I don't know if they cut off the scoop.
Oh, yeah, they
Um,
did. That's Anson Johnson's airplane. It's yellow with red trim.
okay.
Very cool that you got to see that. That's one I haven't gotten to see yet, so I'm jealous.
Yeah, I was excited just to see the Mustang, and then I'm like, wait a
Yeah,
second, that's not a
that's
traditional
not
Mustang.
just a Mustang. That's a one of a kind.
Yeah.
And then the final class is well, there's actually one more after this. Is the jet class, and
Mm-hmm.
I don't know a whole lot about the rules. I don't find them particularly interesting. That's the airplane snob coming out of me, so please don't shoot me. But um, they're L-29 and L-39 aircraft predominantly. Although I have seen a couple of really, really cool airplanes race in the jet class. One of them was a T2 Buckeye. I can't quite make that out.
Hold on.
Yep, that's Anson Johnson's 45. That's
That's it.
really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Really cool.
Um, a T2 Buckeye, which is a naval jet trainer, twin engine. Oh, they have to be straight wing, and they
Okay.
have to be. I don't have to let twin engines fly anymore because a Buckeye's a twin. But any rate, there was also a couple of different de Havilland Vampires that
I,
have raced,
I would
which is
almost go just to see
absolutely
that class to
cool.
see the vampires in person.
So there was one guy that just absolutely, schooled everybody. Was going so fast in a Vampire, and they've got a cool sound, and they've got balsa wood in them, so that's cool. And yeah, so anyway, really neat class. There is a one brand new class. They've only run, I think this year was their second official year, and it's stole drags.
Yes.
So if you watch like Trent Palmer or any of those guys that fly these stall planes on YouTube, they're doing stall drags, which is really cool. It's a drag race, two together, and you have to take off and fly to another pylon where you have to land, come to a complete stop, then turn around 180 degrees and fly back the other way, cross the finish line in the air, touch down, and then come to a complete stop. And the first person to come to a complete stop wins that particular race. So that's pretty exciting. There's been some pretty interesting innovation in that class too. I love anybody that will hot rod an airplane, right? They're cool in my book. But there's a guy named Steve Henry that flies a plane called a Highlander, which is a kit built, like a Kit Fox or something like that. But he's got a Yamaha Apex snowmobile engine in it, which is like a 3-cylinder engine in it. And he's got it turbocharged, and it puts out like over 300 horsepower, and it just sounds like a swarm of absolutely pissed off hornets, right? It's got an amazing sound and really, really fast. And there's guys running like, they have Cubs with big motors in them and gear reductions, and they're running nitrous in them, and just all kinds of this crazy hot rod type stuff that you normally don't see that in aviation. Aviation is normally pretty stoic, and I'm not going to use the word safe because that's not the right word, but in the certificated airplane world, like a Cessna or whatever, you just run whatever it comes with from the factory. There is no modifications. In the kit plane world, you can do some mods, but potentially at the expense of reliability. I mean, running nitrous through your airplane is not probably the best way to prolong the engine life. So anybody that does that is cool in my book. So
it so I just listened to a podcast. I'm listening to the aviation was the experimental aviation podcast. Just because I figured they might have some interesting stuff, and I just listened to was episode 6 with Kevin Quinn. It's on stole drags. So basically,
Kevin,
exactly what we're talking about, and he was the
yeah.
one, I guess, who kind of brought it to Reno. Is that
Yeah, Kevin's
true?
a neat guy, and he's the one that kind of pioneered the whole stole drag thing. And he owns the stole drag name and company, business, whatever it is, because it is a business,
Yeah, definitely.
And he also puts on this thing called the High Sierra Fly-In, which is a
Yeah, it's crazy.
competition at Dead Cow Lake where everybody comes together, and it's a big
Yeah,
camping thing. And he's got it figured out. It's a hugely hot portion of the aviation market right now, and
yeah.
um, he's doing some really cool stuff.
Well, it sounded like it. I mean, if you want to hear, if you're interested in hearing more about that, look at episode 6 of the was it Experimental Aviation Podcast, because they
Yeah,
go into detail about how that evolved and then what goes on. So
that's right.
go if you're interested, go take a look or go take a listen because it's pretty cool.
So there's multiple heats of these 7 classes all day at Reno. Racing
hmm
starts at about 8 a.m. and it goes till about 5 p.m. But in between all of that, there's also air show acts like the Blue Angels or the Thunderbirds or the Snowbirds or
Wow.
some private act. There's all kinds of stuff. So I mean, if you're into that at all, Reno should be absolutely on your short list to attend. It's a one of a kind thing.
Awesome. That is really cool. Okay. So thank you for going. I know, and now there was a fairly short question with almost like a loaded answer there, but
Dissertation, yeah.
yeah, no, but I'm really glad because here's the deal. Like I hadn't heard much about Reno Air Races. What I've heard about Air Races is back in like the 30s when they were pushing the limits of planes and trying to say, "Hey, here's the race from UK to Australia," because the UK had to get stuff to Australia eventually, and they had to
That's
find
right.
planes to do it the fastest. And some of the biggest innovations in aviation in between wars was through these races, really.
So
So,
that's referred to as the golden age of air racing.
hmm
And you had guys like Jimmy Doolittle and Roscoe Turner and all these planes like the GB and the Weddell Williams and
yeah,
all these cool airplanes and yeah, a lot of these home builders, guys that are building the equivalent of foam board RC models, right?
yeah,
But at real airplanes, absolutely waxing the United States government and the best they had to offer. I
right,
mean, like, it's tough to even comprehend that a guy can build a one-off or two-off airplane that would have better performance than what the government could come up with. But that's absolutely what happened during these
yeah,
in between war years. Um, yeah, pretty incredible.
yeah, pretty incredible. And so, in that vein, I feel like that's what the Reno Air Races is continuing on.
It
Um,
is, it's tough to outgun or I say outgun, but I don't mean outgun, but outperform. You're not going to outperform an F-35 or you know something
no,
like that. So those days are gone, but the spirit of performance is still there, and that's absolutely addictive to me. That's
right, yeah, pulling the most you can out of a piston engine
yeah.
is pretty incredible. I watched the Arnold AR5 video that the Arnold company
Hmm.
put out, where they just kind of
Yep.
went through everything that they went through to get that, and I'm assuming that was a Reno Air Racer,
So the
um,
Arnold AR5 was not. That was a
or that was
not
just
a.
a trying to break a record.
It was no. It was his own personal fighter airplane that he realized was pretty fast, and it qualified for C1AO, I believe, is the category it was in, and it's basically under 660 pounds with the pilot, with the fuel, everything.
hmm
He went 213 miles an hour with that airplane.
Yeah, and it was on like
Um,
40. It was like an awful small amount of horsepower in
60,
it too.
65 horsepower Rotax two-stroke,
Yeah,
essentially, um, like out of a Kit Fox. Very
yeah.
early Kit Fox would
I was
have
gonna
that.
say you pick almost any used plane that you can find on the market now for very inexpensive. That motor there, he got that going 235 miles an hour. Like,
Yeah,
wow,
yeah, pretty incredible.
that's
So,
incredible.
so, so Mike Arnold, I happen to be a huge fan of his. He's passed now, but
Yeah,
um, he was a filmmaker turned, amateur aerodynamicist. Although I don't know that I would call him amateur because he's a very smart guy.
yeah.
Um, but he went on to build another airplane called an AR-6 that was a Formula One legal aircraft, and he designed it, built by a guy named Dave Hoover, and eventually sold to another guy named Steve Senegal, who still races it, and a very, very fast airplane, nearly the fastest one ever. So part of Mike's philosophy was these you know, staggering pressure gradients. So my airplane is heavily influenced by Mike's work on the AR-6.
hmm
They look similar in the fuselage. There are some important differences that I think um, are going to help me, but uh, yeah, I'm standing on the shoulders of giants for sure, and Mike was one of them.
Yeah. Even just listening to the very end of the AR5 where he talked about how he thought to, I guess, merge the airflows in ways that he
Yes.
thought made sense. And he
Yeah.
goes, I don't know why nobody else was doing this. I don't get this. Why this was an
Well,
innovation, but
yeah. The thing is he paid attention to it at low speed where nobody had really paid much attention to it in that speed regime before.
mm-hmm.
So
And
yeah, great guy. And there's actually 5 or 6 of those videos.
yeah, they're great
Um,
videos. If you are
yeah,
even
good
just,
stuff.
I plan on using that method that he used to, I'll call it build like, I want to build a glass quickie RC model just to
Hmm.
just go through that process just to see.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a fantastic method of construction.
Yeah, I expect my arms will be tired after a while.
Lots of sanding. Yeah.
Lots of sanding, yeah. Anyway, okay, so let's get back to the races. Okay, so you said they last for like well over a week. How many days are the Formula One? Are they any one class? Are they racing that whole time, like throughout
Yes.
the days?
So what happens is the Friday of the weekend before and that Saturday are tech days. That's where you have to show up, assemble your airplane. Most of those airplanes are brought in a trailer. Some are flown in,
Mm-hmm.
and you have to go through a technical inspection. So since it's a fairly tight formula, you have to check things like uh, cylinder volume, cam profile,
Mm-hmm.
make sure that your engine components are legal, weight and balance, view over the nose, things like this that make sure your airplane is legal to race. Sunday is a practice day. Sunday it changes around a little bit, but Sunday is usually a practice day, and then Monday and Tuesday are qualifying days.
Okay.
And then there's typically 2 sessions each day. You get a morning and a later morning session. And then from then on through Sunday are heats.
Okay.
And usually it's bronze, silver, gold every day, with the exception of gold doesn't race on Saturday and silver doesn't race on Sunday.
Okay.
So
That way, there's
uh,
they can focus on one or the other that day.
yeah, part of the thing is there's quite a bit of, particularly with the unlimited class, there's a little bit of pomp and circumstance, introducing all the pilots and this whole kind of a show thing, and it takes up more time. So they'll
Yeah.
race the bronze and the silver class in Formula One on Saturday, and then they don't race it all on Sunday, and then it's only the Formula One gold on Sunday.
Okay.
Um, yeah, so yeah, it's a full week plus. It's a I'm just absolutely ragged by the time it's over.
I bet.
And
I bet.
there's things like we change propellers quite often based upon the conditions at the field. The temperature and the wind and things like that, or how the motor's running. Or so we have 6 or 8 propellers with us,
So it
and
has to be a constant pitch for the Formula One, or is it
has to be
a fixed pitch? I mean,
ground adjustable. It can't be in-flight adjustable. So you can have an
okay.
adjustable pitch prop, but you can only adjust it from the ground.
Okay. Yeah. So once it
So
gets in the air, it stays that way.
that's right. So we don't use those. We use fixed pitch props, just like an APC that you would buy to put on your flight test plane or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
It's that. And we have several different sizes based upon the conditions that we'll try.
Okay.
So what's the reasoning for not being able to adjust in flight?
Cost and complexity. So this is supposed to be the poor man's racing class. And, a constant speed prop is, one, it's heavy, and two, it's expensive. So this is supposed to be a simple class, and that's one of the ways they do that. And I'm thankful for it, because constant speed props are very expensive, and you're not going to pull one off and try a different one if the blade profile isn't right or the twist progression isn't right or something like that. Whereas a fixed pitch, they're a little more affordable, and you have the right golf club for the hole.
Yeah.
Right.
So, and basically anybody can join the Formula. Like, how do you get involved? Do you have to have sponsors? Do you have to know somebody who knows somebody? Or do you just have to have a plane that qualifies? And if you have the money to sign up, you're in.
It's a little more than that, but that's basically it. If you can afford to do it and you have the pilot skill, you can do it. So there's something that happens every June called rookie school. So you have to attend and pass the rookie school prior to racing. So it's an orientation. They teach you how to race, how to be safe on the course, how to pass, how not to kill yourself, how not to kill anybody else.
Yeah.
Those are fairly important things. And you pass that course and you get your race license, then you're allowed to race at Reno. Or
Okay.
um, all the classes do it a little bit differently, but you're allowed to race in the Formula One class, and Reno recognizes that race license for their
Okay.
facility.
Cool. So how many planes are flying at once in a heat?
Depends on how many people entered. There is a cap, but usually it's between 6 and 8 at any one time.
Wow, that's a that's a lot of planes going in a tight loop.
It can be, yes. It's exciting.
Like, I mean, just watching it on the camera, it seems like, you know, there is some room in the sky there for sure. But I know going that fast and making those kind of turns, I'm not sure how comfortable I would be being that close to other planes, knowing that kind of like when you're on the highway, you're going so fast, you're like, I want a way out in case something goes
Yes.
weird, you know.
Yeah, so you're absolutely right, and that's part of the reason they stagger them between gold, silver, and bronze. So you have sort of like speeds on the course at the same time. Because if you have
Mhm.
a bronze class racer that might do 160 miles an hour
Right.
and a gold class racer that's doing 250 miles an hour, you've got nearly 100-mile-an-hour closure rate there.
Yeah.
Um, it can be very dangerous passing. So the course is pretty tight. Um, in recent years, the FAA has levied an altitude limit, so you have to be below this limit, which it's different for each class.
Okay.
Formula One, I don't know what it is off the top of my head, but it's like 150 feet or something, or
Oh,
200 feet.
geez.
It's not very high. So when
That's
you
low.
yeah, and then you've also got deadlines to the outside of the course that you can't break. So you have a pretty narrow corridor to fly around and pass people and be safe. So yeah, it's quite the pilot workload, and not everybody cuts the mustard and is able to compete.
Yeah, I imagine not. I imagine not. I'm rolling around all the things that as a beginner pilot, I'm sitting there going, oh man, that part's all really hard. I can't even
Yeah,
imagine trying to turn
yeah,
and keep, we just recently came in behind one of our fellow, student pilots, and they were coming in and we just happened to be right, tucking right behind them. And I'm like, this is as close as I've ever been to another craft. And it was maybe 150, 200 feet, plenty of
right.
space. We definitely, there was no real concerns. He's like, oh, you should have seen it earlier. And he has a picture he showed me on the ground, and they were, you could have, jumped from one wingtip to the other. If you,
Yeah, absolutely. And imagine you've heard of wake turbulence, right? Where you wait for a preceding landing or taking off aircraft because they're going to churn up the air in front of you. And well, imagine what 8 airplanes doing multiple laps in the same chunk of airspace does to the air. It tears the crap out of it, and
I hadn't
that can
even
be
thought about
dangerous
that.
too. So
Mhm.
yeah, there's a lot going on.
Other than a private pilot's license and the rating for your type of plane, do you need obviously you said the beginner school or
Yeah, rookie school.
rookie school. I was going to call it noob school, but that's not quite the same. What is there any other kind of licensing you need for that?
So not for the Formula One class. That will cover you in the Formula One class. Some of the other classes require additional ratings, mostly commercial, I think is what they want. But no, if you are a private pilot and you have the chops and you can afford it and you can, not show poor judgment on the race course, you can absolutely come race.
Okay. I'm nowhere near any of that right now, and I'm certainly getting as I get older, I'm realizing like maybe I'm not quite
Ooh, I'm
there.
mortal.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I realized that a while back. But yeah. Um, okay, let's see. What about your? How about this? What about your family? Like, obviously, you guys are kind of entrenched in this. This aviation has been your life. I mean, one way or
Yeah,
another,
absolutely.
it's been
Yeah.
your life. That's no
Yep.
question. When you said, "I'm going to build a plane and I want to fly Formula One in the Reno Air Races," how did that go over?
Well, first of all, it wasn't a surprise because, my wife, before we were ever married, knew that, someday I'm going to race.
Okay,
And
first date.
yeah,
Okay, I'm red.
Well, I mean,
I'm
she
going to be
knew I
flying in
was.
the Reno Air Races. Just be aware.
Yeah, I mean that probably wasn't our first conversation, but I mean
Sorry.
she's gone with me a few times, and she knows absolutely that my goal was to race there. So it's not really like a conversation that we had to have. It was always going to happen. It just is becoming more real now. Um, she doesn't really care for aviation. She doesn't like to fly with me at all. She gets airsick,
Mm-hmm.
and it's just one of those things that I enjoy it with my family and my kids and those sorts of things. And she has things that she likes to do that I could care less about as well. And we just coexist. And there's certainly the chance that something horrible could happen. And you just have to realize that if you're not on your game, you shouldn't be pushing it. And I'm very much like that, especially coming from a flight test world. Um, you don't if you're not up to performing, you call a knock it off and you don't do it. So while I think I'm going to love it and I have every intention to compete, maybe I won't like it. Maybe I'll find that I don't have the right skill set. Maybe I'll find that, hey, this is a little more hairy than I really think it should be, and maybe I won't participate. Um, I got to tell you, I think those chances are really, really slim because of spending my life dreaming about this. But it could
No.
happen, and I'm not above admitting that. It might not
Yeah.
work out.
Yeah. Yeah. You have to at least have that honesty about it, just to be, as a pilot, just in
Yeah.
general, you need to be aware of where this is no longer safe for you. You know.
Unfortunately, there have been some incidents at Reno, and folks have lost their lives, and
Yeah.
I've witnessed more than my fair share of people that didn't get to go home and hug their families, and
Yeah.
it's not lost on me at all. I'm
Yeah.
I'm very aware of that, but that drives me to be a better pilot, to be a smarter designer, and
Yeah.
be a better mechanic. So I like my chances, but we'll see if it actually happens.
Awesome. Okay, so here's some of the biggest question in my mind. So one of the things, if you're an RC enthusiast and you're wondering what kind of paint scheme you should do, go to what was that, airrace.org, and just look at the paint schemes that these guys come up with. It's amazing. There's so
Yeah.
many great ideas for an RC aircraft, let alone a regular one. The big question here is, do you have a name for your plane, and
I
have
do.
you decided on a paint scheme?
I do. The plane is called Impulse, and my daughter, who I think was in 8th grade, came up with that. It was just one of those things, and it just fit. It means a lot of different things. It's sort of ironic to me because nothing about this is on impulse. It's completely thought out and well engineered and thought through every way possible. So I think that's kind of funny. And yeah, I do have a paint scheme. I'll show you here real quick. I'm very fortunate enough to have become internet friends. I've never met him in person, but
Hmm.
there's an Italian named Mirko Picarari, who's a fairly well-known aircraft designer. He's worked a lot with Horizon Hobby and also with
Okay.
full-scale aircraft like Grobe and Extra and things like that. And he
Oh yeah.
he had a website, and I just sent him an email, and I'm like, hey, I'm doing this, and I'm interested, and we became friends, and he agreed to do the design for me. So I don't know if you can, well, we can see this here,
Okay,
but
you can see it
No,
pretty
that's
good.
going to be pretty.
Oh,
that's
it's
that.
gonna be pretty. He's got
Yeah,
like
so that's
a white swept pinstripe along, I'll call it the air curve of the plane, and it is blue on top, like a, what would you call that kind of blue? It's beautiful.
so my inspiration of this is the Gulf Porsche 917 race cars in the 60s and 70s. I like
Oh yeah.
that Gulf livery. So it's an
Yep.
orange and baby blue,
Mm-hmm.
and there are a few different shades. And one of the cool things I thought he did is he took, um,
Yep.
my model airplane race number was 41 for years, and he took the NASA,
Orbit.
orbiting thing around it and put it around the meatball there, and
Yeah.
I thought that was kind of a cool little touch.
Yeah, I like it. And I like the, I'll call it, like you said, that because it's modeled after that Porsche, that mid, what is it, mid 30s Porsche kind of
70s. Yeah, Gulf.
mid 70s. Okay,
Yeah,
right. Where
Porsche
there's that
917. Yeah.
round numberette, like
Yes.
placard,
Yeah. Yep.
real stylized. That's cool. I love it.
Yeah. So that's it might change a little bit, but that's pretty much I think what it's going to look like.
Have you built a model of it and flown it?
I have not built an RC model. I'm looking over here because I have. Let me hang on 1 second.
Okay.
I have molds, yes, for it's a 1/6 scale of my
Of what you got behind you.
impulse. Yeah, they're not quite ready to pull molds off of yet, but no, I have not built an RC model of it. I absolutely will at some point.
Okay. Well, cool. All right. I could probably talk to you all day about where you're at in the build, and I guess, is there a place that somebody can go and learn more about what you're doing with that?
Unfortunately, not. I haven't really made it public yet, and it's not because I'm trying to keep it a secret. It's because I can't create enough content to I think be worthwhile. And when I do make it public, I want to be able to support it.
Yeah,
Obviously, I'm going to be courting sponsors and things like that, right?
sure.
So I'm long overdue to put a website together. I actually have it, partially done.
Mm-hmm.
But I wanted it to be a little bit closer to reality before I, sort of leaked it.
Okay.
Although it's the worst kept secret, everybody
Oh.
knows. But it's one of those things that I don't want it to be vaporware.
Right.
I want it to be real so that it's not 10 years from now. Oh yeah, I think I heard about something about that a long time ago. So kind of trying to make a splash, I guess, in a way, but really it's about not disappointing people. Honestly,
Yeah.
so much stuff gets talked about way before it should, and by the time it actually becomes real, it's not not anything cool anymore.
It's
So
not
I'm trying
exciting.
to
Yeah.
avoid that. Yeah.
Okay. Well, then I will leave that to you. I know as an experimental airplane, the documentation process has to be pretty thorough. So I'm sure you have some of that. I'm sure when you're ready to put it up, if
Oh
anybody's
yeah. I mean,
interested to see the process, you'll
I have a binder full of engineering, right? So
yeah.
um, starting from basic sketches that I did to the CAD models and the iterations and all the different design. I went
Mm-hmm.
through um, probably 8 or 9 different wing designs, including airfoil and plan form and progression, and I mean, figured out the pressures for the hinge lines and the aileron placement and structure and
Mm-hmm.
all this stuff because it gets really real when your butt's in it, right? I've
Yeah.
designed designed hundreds of models and successfully flown them and built thousands, and
Yeah.
it's a whole different ball game because to me I'm not doing this to just fulfill my dream to compete. I mean, that's absolutely part of it. I'm doing this because I think I have a legitimate shot of winning and potentially setting a record. I mean, that's what's
Yeah.
driving me.
That's
Maybe
awesome.
I won't, probably I won't, but it's not worth doing to me unless I've got that shot. So
Mm-hmm.
like when I compete in models, I don't go just to go have fun. I mean, there's part of that too, but
You're
it's not worth it to me unless I think I have a legitimate shot at winning, right?
you're
And
there to show up and show something.
that's just how I am, and it's not to show off to anybody. It's 100% for me.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. I could care less what anybody else thinks. So,
Awesome.
yeah, I mean, I think I've created something that has the potential to go really, really fast, and
Yeah.
otherwise I would have just bought a Casset or some other airplane that's ready to go, and I could have been flying racing 10 years ago.
Yeah.
But that's just not how I do it. It's just not me.
No, right. Awesome. Okay. I'd love it if we could switch gears. I mean, like I said, I could. I'm imagining I'm going to be reaching out to you later and ask you far more details about what you're doing build wise.
Absolutely. Happy to share everything.
But let's go talk. Let's kind of switch gears and talk about STEM. Joe knows that I'm heavily involved in the Scouts. Joe was a Scouter a long time ago. One of the things we do is STEM night, where we basically introduce kids. We have a couple parents who are very science related. We have a chemist and a, this or that. And so
Awesome.
we get them involved. My portion is oftentimes let's build a foam plane and throw it across the gym. It's something
Yep.
to do because it's cold, and what else are you going to do all night? We could play kickball and get tired of it, or we could build a plane. So um, the resounding answer is always, where's the planes? Which is great.
Yeah, no, cool. I'm the reason I'm sort of stuttering here is I have something I want to show you that I think would be fantastic for your next scout night.
Okay.
I don't know if this is going to work well, but I'm going to show you a video and I'm going to try to get it up there.
Okay.
So this is called a walk-along glider.
Oh, yes. Yeah, I've seen those. They're made
that's
with super thin, basically sheets of foam, right?
Yep. This is just 1 pound EPS, junk packaging foam, right? That's my buddy Justin, and that's our lab at work. That's a fantastic activity for scouts because it requires very little building and a bunch of skill development
right.
for actually flying those things. So we can talk about that, offline or something, whatever. But
yeah,
that's a really fun thing to do as well.
Yeah, because really what you're doing is you're walking behind it with a board that's creating a slope effectively. You're basically slope flying, but you're moving the slope.
That's right. Yeah, very cool. And you can make them out of junk material. I mean, it just literally a chunk of EPS foam, and if you've got a bandsaw, you just slice it off as thin as you can get it. I can send you a pattern that I developed. This has got a kind of a NASA twist on it. It's got a sawtooth leading edge to promote vortex lift at low Reynolds numbers, and it works pretty well. But that's it. They're just that and a little bit of clay to balance it, and you're done. So no gluing, no nothing.
That's so cool. I know I've built another one that works amazing. I mean, I'm really blown away every time I build these, and I build these with the scouts as well in a different setting. Is those paper plate gliders that the AMA promotes.
Yep.
And it's just, put a penny on the front of this thing that's just so simple. And that thing glides across an entire gym, and you're like, that
awesome.
Shouldn't be that amazing. But it is. And of course, the kids get to adjust it so they can make it fly even further. And kids are just like, whoa. So
awesome stuff.
And I'd like to do the bigger foam board to sew them, like for a couple bucks more. Parents go down to the dollar store and you can fold yourself and experiment to your heart's content. Here's a glider that you can just bust around. A little bit of tape, a lot of glue, a little bit of glue, and at an hour.
I love that kind of stuff. I spent hours and hours. So you have to understand that I grew up in the garage with my dad building model airplanes. My very earliest memories are doing that. However, there was a period of about from when I was probably 8 years old till, well, still to this day, really, but so I was about 14 or so that I had a really good friend of mine that we built balsa wood truck gliders, 12-inch wingspan to whatever. And, those days taught me more about aerodynamics and trimming than probably any other portion of my modeling career. I learned so much from experimenting. So I 100% get where you're coming from, and it ignited a spark in me that lives to this day. That I'm thankful for. That it's the curiosity. If I do this, what happens? And you start to understand these relationships. And since all aircraft design is a compromise, you learn how to most efficiently compromise and get the result that you want.
Yeah, it's absolutely true, and it's a good way to put that. One of the interesting feedbacks I get two kinds of feedbacks. One is, especially when we do experiments with the kids, is they come up with like, hey, can I do this? And I'm like, I don't know, can you? Show me.
Yeah.
Let's try it. And they're like, wait, I can do this? And, just empowering them to engage their curiosity and just go do it. It's okay. Yeah. Like, I'm not going to be mad at you. Go have fun.
Totally.
And then out of the simple Dollar Tree, and again, simple materials, and then watching the parents come back like a month later going, we still have that glider. They pull it out and still fly it. Like, it still flies well.
That's really cool.
It's really durable. I'm like, yeah, it's why do you think I picked it? I know how kids are.
Yep, that's good stuff.
Yeah. So how does NASA? We talked last time about how NASA kind of promotes um, those who are in the RC hobby. When you're looking for people to help you out, you're looking like, dude, if you have the experience of building something, I'd rather have you than somebody who's like a straight A student who you may know everything, but you have no practical experience, and somebody who can like get their hands in there and just get it done
Yeah.
is more useful and more practical for the kinds of things you guys do at your center in NASA. How does NASA? Obviously, NASA's got to be big on STEAM because you know
Oh, yeah,
without
for
that,
sure.
where would half of
Yeah,
the people
no
who are
question.
doing things in
So,
NASA?
we have the whole, the intern program, right, where we
Mhm.
accept um, from high school age all the way through college. And, as long as they're heading towards or have declared a STEM major, they're eligible to intern at NASA. And you can imagine we get thousands and thousands of applicants. And, by virtue of the number of applicants, we take the best of the best, right? Um,
Absolutely. You have the pick of the
for
litter.
for the greater part of NASA, um, book smart, intellectual, straight A student, top of the class is absolutely what they go for. Um, and it makes sense because the type of work that most interns do that fits exactly in with uh, the sort of the NASA paradigm: data reduction, conceptualizing, doing all these kinds of higher level thinking exercises and things like that. Because that's
Yeah.
really what NASA is all about, right? But what for what I do and what my lab does, that doesn't work. It's 100% hands-on, right? And you'll have folks that I've met that that work at NASA are some of the smartest people I know. They don't know which end of a screwdriver to use
Yeah.
because they don't have to. That's not what they do. They're these incredible aerodynamicists, or they
Yeah.
simulation engineers, just all this kind of crazy stuff that I'm not interested in, but it's insanely cool. Um, but whereas us, you absolutely have to have the mixture of mechanic, um, aerodynamicist, pilot, software engineer, DIY carpenter.
Mhm.
You got to be able to work a tape gun and a hot glue gun, right? So it's a strange mixture that you don't typically get out of traditional college courses. Now,
Right.
somebody that's an aero major, they might have a a, uh, a modeling component for a senior project, or they might be on a design build fly team, or something like that. But um, it's in my opinion, it's pretty late if you're exposed like in high school to modeling
Yeah.
to get to where do what we do. It really takes a person that's they don't do it for fun. They do it because they have to. And like I'm compelled to play with airplanes every day, right? It's my defect. I don't have a choice. And you find like-minded people like that. But you're absolutely right. I will take a person who has that practical experience over somebody who's straight A and an Eagle Scout and the leader of their club or whatever.
hmm
Uh, I've had people like that and they've been fantastic.
Yeah.
Uh,
Oh yeah.
but
It's not
but
anything against them. It's just
no,
based on the kinds of things that you guys do in your lab.
yes,
The hands-on
it,
experience goes a lot further than the book smart. Um,
yeah,
it-
we
you
need
know,
that too. I mean,
yeah, you do.
we when we're doing the Prandtl stuff, we had a couple of girls that wrote all the code for the pressure box, and dude, they were amazing. I mean, I can't spell code, much less write it, and they were absolutely the right ones for the job. So once in a while, you get this well-rounded team that's absolutely magic. Um,
Yeah.
but for the most part, if they're coming, like if I'm looking for somebody to come into the lab to work with us, I look for a very specific skill set. And
hmm
if RC modeling is not at the top, I'm going to keep going.
Yeah.
It's not the right skill set.
Interesting. And well, that's good to know. I mean, anybody who's a noob or has a kid who's kind of getting into it with them, and you know, just know that these skills translate. And I mean, Joe and I have talked about how just some of the things you do with RC is stuff you got to do in other locations. You know, when you have to repair your house, and you're like, oh, this thing, it doesn't ever, nothing ever fits. Joe trying to figure out why are all these pieces that there should just be one piece. It should just work, and knowing you're like, okay, this is just, it's another one of those things. It's going to take a
Yeah,
little bit of head scratching and a little bit of persistence, and we'll get there,
well, it's, some people will, define a problem and give you a set of requirements. Often we get somebody's PowerPoint concept
Mm-hmm.
and they have no idea what the requirements are and they don't even know what a box looks like.
Yeah.
And we are tasked with coming up with something that, can do what they need to do to get their data for their experiment. So
Right.
it's a very um, it's a very different world. You have to have a lot of well-rounded knowledge. And the funny thing is like the RC modeling thing is 10 or 15% of what we do.
Yeah. Yeah. You were
There's so
saying that
much
of the
more.
days that you work, you're only out doing flying or, getting a plane ready to go like a really small part of the year.
Small portion, yeah.
You wish it were more, of course.
We do a lot of conceptualizing, like integration for, if somebody they want to get this thing. How do you make all these pieces get together to get this data?
Mm-hmm.
Um, so you like the pressure ports are a great example on Prandtl. Al wanted to get these in-flight real-time pressure measurements. Well, nothing like that exists on the planet. It's just
Mm-hmm.
there's no data system that has 96 channels of live pressure data. It just doesn't exist. So you gotta
Yeah.
you gotta invent that.
Yeah. 96 essentially pitot tubes, right?
It's exactly what it was. Yeah, they're flush fitting, but yeah, they're a pressure port. So yeah, it's awesome. It's so much fun, but it's a lot different than I think people think.
Yeah. So cool. So how does NASA reach out to like high schools and middle schools and the younger age kids? Is there somewhere that, let's say, teachers or parents can go and kind of maybe get some inspiration or, you know?
Yeah, if you just Google NASA STEM, it might be STEM at nasa.gov. I don't recall
Mm-hmm.
the URL off the top of my head, but there's absolutely like teacher resources like that, and there are resources by grade level. I don't think they go by actual grade, but it's like
It's
grade school,
K
mid
through
school.
4, 5 to 8, and 9 to 12.
Yeah, and there's
Um,
more than that too. But
yeah, I mean, it goes in far more depth. That's the
yeah,
bulk,
yeah. So
groups.
there's a bunch of stuff like that, but it really comes down to NASA employees and sort of a grassroots effort. So much like you've
Okay.
done, reached out to me and we have these conversations. We get requests all the time. Sometimes they're a blind request. In other words, it'll come
Mhm.
into the public affairs office. Hey, we want somebody to talk about the
This,
moon or
whatever, yeah.
rockets or airplanes or whatever, and they'll find somebody that's proficient in that field, and then not necessarily get tasked. It's all a volunteer sort of a thing, but
Hmm.
um, I got tapped on the shoulder pretty early on when I started at NASA to do some public speaking and visit a couple of these schools, and I'm like, I've never done anything like that. I don't know. Okay, I guess.
Yeah, right.
And fortunately, I've become more comfortable with it. I would not say I'm a great orator or anything like that, but I absolutely enjoy talking about these things. So that I think
Yeah.
that makes up for it. But there's just there's big NASA where you get like the STEM stuff, like here's NASA's vision and here's these packets, and
Yeah.
then that's that's good stuff. To me, you get the gold from making that connection with somebody who's passionate about whatever it is you want to learn about,
Hmm.
and forming, much like we've done here, a somewhat personal relationship, and that's kind of your peek behind the curtain, I guess. But we get requests, by the bucket load, right? We can't possibly support all of them, so there
No,
are
right.
a few precious ones that rise above and that we get to support, fortunately. So there's also like community college stuff where we have folks come in and do these, 1 week or 2 week, 3 week type programs, things like that. So there's all kinds of stuff like that. And the cool thing I think about it is it's not public affairs mission. It's kind of everybody's mission. And
Yeah.
as employees, we're all encouraged to support that kind of stuff as much as we can. So I enjoy doing it. as long as it's in my wheelhouse, I'm not going to talk to you about rockets or space flight or anything like that. If you want to talk model airplanes, cool. Other than that, you probably should talk to somebody else. But
Right.
yeah, that's really how it happens.
Nice. Well, good. Well, thank you. We have a link. We'll put a link to this, the things we've talked about with Red so far, so you can go take a look for yourself. I urge you to go to the RenoAirShow.org, and I believe that was the website, and then NASA.gov/STEM. We'll have a link for that too.
Yeah. Also,
just see what we've been talking about, because
those
it's incredible.
for those folks that think they might be interested in interning, it's intern@nasa.gov.
Okay.
And that'll take you to the portal and tells you all about it. And that's how you officially apply
Okay.
to become a intern.
Yeah, and I think we talked about last time, like you don't have to be a scientist, because it takes every kind of profession to do what NASA does.
Right.
Period.
Yeah, absolutely. And like you're a kid that scrolls TikTok all day, and you're on Instagram and Twitter and Facebook and all that stuff, and you know how to do all that stuff and run it. Guess what? Public affairs loves those people.
Yeah.
You don't have to know anything about, you don't even have to know which end of the rocket's going to burn you, but they want you to work in their on their website. I'm serious. I mean, don't think that you need to be a rocket scientist to work at NASA. I mean, I am absolutely not.
Right.
I mean, there's people that are interested in photography. Yeah, we need to photograph every single project that happens at NASA. There's for sure a place for that.
Yeah. Yeah. How else do you put? I mean, one of the things I think NASA is known for is some of the most amazing photographs of whatever it is they're doing. And it really just the clarity and conciseness, I guess, of whatever photo it is that's out there that's passing around everywhere. That's, I think, what people remember.
It's documenting history as well. Like, everybody thinks of like the Saturn V launches to go into the moon. That's an incredible photography, right? But they weren't out to make incredible pictures. They were there to document whatever happened for posterity, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so out of that comes some amazing stuff. But, I have stacks of archives of pictures of circuit boards and connectors and, whatever that the general public would be like, it's absolutely no use to us. But for me, I can go, we hooked this thing up, and I don't remember what connector we used, but I can go look in the archive and I can get the part number because the photographer knew to take a picture of the interface and the part number and all that kind of stuff. So, there's two sides to that whole thing. And,
Yeah.
We take everybody.
That's awesome. Well, everybody keep that in mind if you're heading that direction or know somebody, which you probably do, who's just wondering what in the world might I do, or going, boy, I'd like to be part of that. Because obviously, some of the biggest thing in the news is the Mars mission, and I know I'm a Prandtl fan. I'm on the edge of a fanatic, but one of the cool things you were telling us about earlier, I know what, how really. One of the cool things about Prandtl is the Mars, that it is a craft that you guys have designed as a potential payload carrier for a Mars mission.
Yeah, that's right. So it's in its very, very infancy. So I can't tell you a whole lot about it because there's not a whole lot of specifics, but there is talk about, finally putting some sort of a payload on, some of these aircraft and flying them on Mars. So my head is blown open thinking that I could potentially have a part in something that would fly on Mars. It's so unreal and surreal to me that I have a hard time fathoming it, honestly.
Yeah.
So
I get what you're coming from.
If that comes around, I'm going to, wow. Right.
Yeah. Right. And that's pretty cool. I mean, I've watched there's a video, I think, of you and one of your interns putting together, looks like a fiberglass or carbon fiber monocoque design Mars glider. It looks like it was just dropped as a payload just to see how it was gliding.
Smaller
it's just a real quick.
Yeah.
Yep. Real small. Maybe the size of a keyboard.
Yeah. Yeah, that's one of the Prandtl M's, the M's are they're all over the place. There have been a bunch of different design points. They're different wingspan, different sweeps, different dihedrals, different twists, different airfoils, all these sorts of things. So the M's are by far the most prolific of all of the Prandtl designs. There have been 4 of the, what I would call traditional designs, 2 of the 12.5 footers and 2 of the 25 footers. And those were very similar to each other. There was only 1 degree of difference in twist between the small one and the big one. Otherwise, the planform's the same, the airfoil's the same.
Right.
But the M's have just been all over the place. They've been, straight trailing edge and highly swept, or, some have a kind of a fat middle to hold more payload, and some are, larger span and smaller span and all this kind of stuff. So it's really neat stuff, and we've sort of focused in on what we think is the sweet spot.
Okay.
Actually, and one of those is going to fly tomorrow, actually.
Nice.
No.
It must be pretty exciting to get ready for, knowing.
Yeah, and the funny thing is tomorrow's test is not a test of the Prandtl M. It's not a test of the carrier airplane. It's not even a test of the Mars program at all. It's a test for a magnetic separation system for carrying vehicles, between the two. So it just happens that we're going to use a Horizon Carbon Cub and we're going to use a Prandtl M because they're both the right size.
That makes good sense.
Yeah.
Cool. That's nice. I know as an RCer, you're always looking for a good way to release your whatever. Just name payload. 12 ounce Coke can because it makes a good splash. Maybe it's a parachute guy. Who knows?
So in the larger airplane world, there's a real problem with hanging stores, whether it's a fuel tank or a weapon or even the space shuttle or anything like that, right? When you carry with another airplane, it's pretty well understood, but it's archaic technology. It's a couple of hooks that grab in and they release, right? So the researchers are looking for a more passive way to carry things. So you maybe don't have to have as large of a pylon, or maybe you don't have to have these appendages on the drop tank or whatever, a hook. So the idea are these magnets that are circularly polarized. So think of slices of a pizza that are north-south, 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 all the way around. So in one orientation they stick, but you twist them and then they repel.
And they repel,
So recontact, which is a term for dropping something off of an aircraft and having it come back in contact, is a huge problem, especially at higher speed, mainly with weapons. But if you Google, or on YouTube, there's some videos that'll make the hair on the back of your neck stand up, right? But so with this MagSep or magnetic separation, not only do you get a way to cleanly separate these two bodies, but the magnets repel, so you actually get a push away. So you're getting a helping hand of getting these two bodies from each other. So tomorrow is the first flight test of this concept, this magnetic sep system.
So is it using I'll call it designed magnets? I know there's a couple companies that are basically I'll call it, they're like 3D. Is it 3D printing? They're making designer magnets where literally you could put your logo in a magnet, and with the magnet paper they're designing the magnetic field per your desire, and consequently like making a latch basically for a door that when you twist the latch, like you're exactly talking about, off it pops.
Funnily enough, these are off the shelf magnets, and this is actually an intern project. It was designed by an intern, and there's just a servo that drives a couple of gears. This is the back side. This is the magnet side. So here's the magnets right here.
Yeah.
And
turns it.
It just rotates them. So it's just in its infancy. We have these little projects that are supported by something called the Center Innovation Fund. And this Center Innovation Fund is a small pot of money that they award 20 or so awards a year to anybody who comes up with an idea. Doesn't even have to be in your field. And this is one of those Center Innovation Fund projects. Like, what if we had this magnetic separation that was, very positively latched, but then would push away, and help help some of these other problems. So that's exactly what this is. So if this flight test goes well and shows some promise, it could be a follow-on project at some point.
Very cool. Yeah, awesome. Innovation abound over at the Neil Armstrong Flight Research Center.
We do tons of these tiny projects that, the vast majority of them never turn into anything. They're just investigative.
Cool. Definitely actually, I find that's one of the most interesting things when I get to talk to you. And there's always these little like stories that come out and you're like, oh, interesting. I would never even thought.
That's what attracts me to NASA, is that it's research and that every day is different. I mean, there's some continuity, right? But
Sure.
like I look back at, when I first started, or even just a few years ago, I'm like, man, I'm not even looking at that thing that we were working on then. There's something off in this direction now that has got our attention, and I love it. That's inspiring.
Nice. Okay, so again, we could be talking for a long time. But I want to start closing this out. We've been talking for a while. I know you have other things I'm sure you're going to want to do, if it's only just to go to sleep at some point here. We do have a question that came in from one of our listeners. Joe, do you want to read that, or do you want me to read that?
You can go ahead.
All right. We had our buddy Zediac reach out. Jesse, he said, if money and time were no obstacle, and this is a question to all of us, so all of us kind of wrap our noodles around this. What aviation-related thing would you pursue? Like something like around the world. He gives a couple examples. Around the world with a backpack wing, designing efficient, automated whatever, island hopping in your custom-made seaplane. I don't know. What's your dream?
For me, it's to see the world, and in an airplane or an amphib would be amazing, right?
Mm-hmm.
I've been very fortunate in my previous job mostly to travel quite a bit, and the more I travel, the more I realize I don't know anything, especially when it comes to culture and people and things like that. I've met some amazing people and been exposed to a few different cultures, quite a few, and the more of that I get, the more I realize that like there's so much more to learn and so many more people to meet and so many more places to see. If money and time were no object, I would absolutely travel the world in some sort of flying machine and try to see every corner of it.
Yeah. Joe?
Oh, was that question also posed at me?
Oh, baby, it's he posed to all of us. I'm just stalling. That's why I'm asking you.
Oh, okay. Man. Well, honestly, I would just love to get my pilot's license, have a plane, and be able to go flying periodically. As far as I'm concerned, Matt, you've got my dream.
I'm working at it. I don't know if I have it yet. Come on now.
You're going to get there.
I hope to. I'm pushing at it. I think my dream would probably be what Red's doing right now to a degree. It would be to design and build my own plane. Maybe not a Reno Air Racer per se, but definitely something that my dream reaches out. Like what I would love is if I could find a way to make a true ornithopter craft, like aircraft function.
Oh, wow.
That I've been watching Dragonfly videos and all sorts of my brain has been rolling around mechanisms to make that function okay. And I feel like we're all collectively at the edge of making something like that work. If money and time were no object, that would be what I would probably waste my entire existence doing. Because I think it's incredible that we haven't figured that out at all. And yet it would probably be the best innovation in some ways.
So it's an incredibly inefficient way to fly for a mechanical device. Right? It sucks, right?
Right.
I believe the Japanese have done a powered ornithopter flight.
Right.
There are YouTube videos of it out there, human powered.
Okay, I haven't seen that one yet. I know that there's a man who's doing some RC stuff, really amazing stuff with RC, and he's a Japanese professor, I think. killing it.
So yeah, birds are so much better equipped for flight than anything that we could build.
Right. I know. Yeah, absolutely. But I feel like some of the things, again, that's part of what fascinates me about the Prandtl is that it's like, boy, I don't know why it took so darn long, but we finally seem to have cracked that. Like, oh, that's what's going on there. I feel like there's a reason why the dragonfly is, I'll call it the king of the hunters, as it were, for that size and shape.
Moving.
Part of what's going on there is an elastic relationship where the energy in isn't as much as it looks like it is, it seems. You know, there's something going on where most of what's happening is elastic. And it's really just a getting the motion started and only a little bit of energy keeping it going, is what it seems like from the outside and, you know, spending way too much time looking at dragonfly videos.
So I found the YouTube video. How do you want me to send you the link?
Go ahead and send it in the interview chat text channel. It'll be perfect. I'm looking forward to seeing that. So yeah, that would be my dream, would be to do that. And then to be able to like fly around the world and just land wherever the heck I darn well feel. Cause I'm in a dragonfly.
Absolutely. How cool would that be?
Right? Just coming on down like, and just sort of lighting on top of like trees. I mean, or whatever I'm imagining in my head. So cool. I'll take a look at that in a little while. So I guess that was the only question we had. Joe, so I guess it brings us to our workbench, right?
Yeah. And I'm fine to let Red head that one off because I know you got your plane that you're working on. So what's sort of the next stage on that for you?
It's odd. So I'm gonna turn my camera a little bit. See that white box on the wall up there above the door?
Yeah.
Yeah, it looks like a wall mount AC.
That's exactly what it is. That's allowed me to do more on this airplane in the last year than anything else. So I live in the Mojave Desert, and you know, it's 110 plus for months out of the year. So I was very fortunate enough to be able to get AC out here in the shop. So that's allowed me to make some serious progress. The next steps, though, are the wing molds are being machined by a friend of mine out of foam and carbon fiber. And I'm hoping that those will be done in the next month or two, and then I bring them down, and then pretty much all the molds are done. At that point, I can start building real airplane parts, and that's a little bit of a dilemma because that means I have to get rid of this plug that's behind me, and I have to have enough room to put all these molds out to you know, to start building the airplane. So what I think I'm going to do is build the wing and then winch it up to the ceiling, get it out of the way, and then I can store the molds in storage while I build the rest of the fuselage and the tail. And at some point, I'm going to have to get a hangar. You know, I can't build. I'm in a 4-car garage here, so you know, I'm not going to be able to build the whole airplane here. But that's my immediate path forward. And then I'm restoring a car with my son, and I can't sit still or focus on one thing at one at a time. So there you go. Take your pick.
Yeah, right. Nice. And anything you're doing in the hobby?
Yes. So I just finished a little turbine jet that think I've decided I'm not going to fly it. I think I'm going to sell it because I just ordered another jet that I want more, and I think it's probably worth more unflown. So that I'm building lots of gliders. You know, I'm in this sort of glider building phase right now. Trying to clean out some of my kit backlog. I have a pretty large collection of kits and various types, everything from gliders to pattern planes to racers to, you know, you name it. So I've been trying to buy less, build more.
Excellent. Well, good. That'll keep you busy for sure.
Yeah, sure will.
What about you, Joe?
Well, I'm going to start by figuring out how I'm going to suspend the rest of these planes from my ceiling.
Gotcha.
Just kind of start getting them up and out of the way. Because the nice thing is I can go ahead and put them, like, except for the 7. The Fogey and the Sea Duck I can go ahead and suspend up there. Even though I've got some work to do on the Duck, I can just lower it down and take it down when I want to work on it. And then once I get the 7 finished up, I can put it up there and then maybe get some fly time. I know I was talking to you around Christmas time. I'm hoping to get a good bit of time off. We'll see how that plays out. And so during that, I may have some good build and potential fly time.
Yeah, man. I'm hoping that we can get together for a bunch of different reasons. One of them is definitely getting together and flying and building. Cool.
It's been far too long.
Dude, get your Sea Dick together, because I'm working on my Don Carnage plane, and that triplane is going. I have a I put the connectors on the voltmeter, so now I've got to just make sure I've got the right motor ESC combo for a 12.6 prop, and make sure, because it's like a 10-inch massive front end. Anyway, so I want to get that maiden, and if I don't destroy it in the maiden, or remaiden, I'm going to spend some quality time painting it, and I'm going to bring it down there, and I am going to chase your Sea Duck and go rat-a-tat-tat-tat, rat-a-tat, and make
well, that's assuming I can keep the Duck in the air for more than 15 seconds.
Well, look, we're going to go into an actual field of some sort, so you'll have plenty of room. I imagine that really won't be that hard once you have enough room, you know?
Yeah.
Let's see. I'm going to finish up that P61 and clean up my dining room, and I'm going to spend some quality time cleaning up and organizing my shop so I can actually find the servo extender that I know is somewhere around here somewhere. I need that to finish up the project. And I'm going to keep working at the Prandtl wings. I know my the foam board versions, the big ones, are working great. I'll probably rebuild the Aero size one and see if I can figure out what went wrong. I've smashed that thing so hard in the nose that it's come apart a couple times now. So I think the aerodynamic qualities are fouled. I'm going to call it that. So I'm going to have to rebuild, but it's a quick build. It's so easy. You just put it together and put that little step. I basically do it as a, what is that where you twist the not reflex? Is that reflex? Yeah. Basically put reflex, 10-degree reflex on the outside edge, and then trail it all the way down to the center. I just found that that's an easier construction method. And then you basically weight it down and let the glue dry. And then at that point, if you do that for a day, the foam relaxes and it wants to stay there even without the glue.
Awesome.
Which works out really good. So I'll be doing that. Getting the Don Carnage plan. I'll probably start working on the Marabou, which is a balsa plan that has the Prandtl twist that is not like, it's not designated as such, but it basically has like a little Zeppelin pod in the middle. And I think it's designed as a slope glider, a slope flyer. There may be a motor on it. Anyway, and it's just this like swept back wing with a twist at the end. If you've ever seen, there's a plane called the Mara. I call it the Flying Mustache, because the ends come up.
Oh yeah, I know what that is. Yeah.
Yep. And that, to me, that has it's the same thing going on there. If it's not the same, it's very similar, like very similar. So this is essentially, it looks like an extension or a variation on that to a degree. So I wanted to see how that flew and how it flies in comparison to the Prandtl wings, and see if it has that same tendency of proverse yaw, or just a real easy, turn, and it feels like it's flying a bird. That's part of what I love about that plane.
I just thought of something. I'm sorry, I don't mean to interrupt you.
No,
but are you aware that there's been a second Prandtl paper released?
No, tell me, show me, link it.
Okay, give me a second. I'll find it for you.
I know. I knew it was coming.
Yeah,
and I just wasn't.
It's done. Yeah, I'll get you the link here and I'll drop it in the chat.
Awesome. And is it all right if I put a link in our show notes for anybody else who's interested?
Absolutely. Please. Yeah, for sure.
And I will, if you want, I can show you. I can throw you the plan for the Prandtl wing. that I've put together, because it is just,
Yeah, I'd
again,
love to see it.
2 sheets of foam and probably about an hour, and you'll have that thing up and running. It's
Awesome.
just a simple, easy flyer. The only thing I haven't figured out is how to I think I need to put a pod on the front. It just seems to be the easiest way to capture the battery without.
Get some weight up there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you could put a bunch of lead shot in the leading edge if you wanted, but
Sure.
how much fun is that? That's no fun.
Right. Not much.
A lot more fun if there's battery. Anyways, so that's about it. And then, really, as we closer to the holidays, I'm going to have more time. And I think I'm going to spend a little bit more time trying to get to and hang out with some of the guys in the field and, do more of that dumb stuff that we did, like flying a bunch of T6s, or maybe enticing some of these other guys to build this Brandle wing.
Awesome.
See what their experiences are. Cool.
All right. Well, Matt, you got anything else?
Nope. Red? You have anything you want to add? Anything we should have asked you?
No, we'll save it for next time. We can keep talking all night if you want.
Fair enough.
Well, we appreciate you coming back and spending some more time with us. Hopefully, tonight hasn't run quite as long as last time. The last time, we appreciate you hanging with us.
Yeah, anytime. I'm happy to come chat whenever you guys think it's appropriate. If you're not tired of me yet, and I'll try to let you know how some of the future testing is going, and hopefully you'll see some more cool things.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
Awesome. Well, thanks again. And guys, as always, thanks for tuning in and listening. We hope you've enjoyed listening as much as Matt and I have enjoyed having this conversation with Red.
Mm-hmm.
As always, feel free to reach out to us. You can reach us at theaviationrcnoob@gmail.com, or you can reach out to Matthew individually at Matthew@aviationrcnoob, or you can reach me at Joe@aviationrcnoob. Feel free to reach out and say hey on our Facebook page. Swing by our website, aviationrcnoob.com, fill out the contact us form, and let us know any thoughts or questions that you have, what's going on in your world, and you're welcome to send us some pictures. We haven't done it in a while, but we do have a pictures page on the website where anybody wants to send in pictures, we'll upload them. Yep. And go ahead, Matt.
Yeah, I was going to say we'd love to see what you're working on, and then show other listeners what everybody's up to. Don't forget to give us, if you're listening on Apple Podcasts, the 5-star ratings help us be more visible to other people. So if you want other people to find us, help us out by giving us that review.
Yep. And of course, remember we've got the build afternoon, either Saturday or to Sunday after this comes out, 11 to 2 Eastern, and then the Friday night we'll have the sim party. So look down in the show notes. If you're not in our Discord server, we'll have a Discord link there for you to join in.
Mm-hmm.
And if nobody else has anything?
Nope.
All right,
we'll get out of here. Guys, thanks again, and we'll see y'all next time.
All right, bye.
Awesome. Thanks so much for having me, guys.
Oh, thanks you for joining us, Red. Good night.
Good night.
So, as a guy who's been, as I go through my private pilot lessons and get closer and closer, I start looking at which, airplane do I want to have? Which one do I want to pick up? And so, I've definitely had my eyeball at I wonder what it would be like to build a plane. And I'm like, that would be years.
It is. I'm going through that right now. I'm in the middle of purchasing an airplane. Actually, I'm still looking. I had a plane that was in escrow, and the guy decided he didn't want to sell.
Oh.
So one piece of advice I can give you is, obviously you got to define your budget, right? But decide on the mission that you want.
Yeah.
Instead of particularly picking an airplane right off the bat, really think about what you want to do with it, and then that'll help you form your the right choice. What are you training in?
172N.
Cool.
Or is it M?
Have you soloed?
No, I keep coming in and leveling off, and I don't have that the transition to flare is not as smooth as it needs to be. So I end up almost landing level like every time.
Yep.
And I was actually wondering if you had a tip, but I just saw something on how to land in a different method than I think I've been taught, and which is basically like wherever the crosswind is, you use ailerons to kind of tilt so that it counteracts whatever it's trying to blow you off course. Use the rudder to keep straight on the
Right.
runway, and then at
Right.
that point, all you're really paying attention to, I mean, those are the things you're kind of just equalizing, and then
Yep.
at that point, you're just coming it down, bringing the flare, and turning it in. And then once you kind of get to that flare, you're pulling that same constant pressure. Once your plane starts to slow down, it'll feel the same, but you'll still be pulling back. That way, you're
So
not
one of
going
the
into the air.
things, yeah,
Go ahead.
one of the things that helped me when I was learning how was, you know, when you have your aim point, you put the nose of the airplane basically where you want to land, right? You're
Yeah.
aiming where you want to go. Well, when you get into the flare, the nose should come up and point at the opposite end of the runway. So
Okay.
if you bring the top of the cowling up to the far end of the runway, so you can just barely see, or it depends on how big the runway is,
Right.
but
Yeah.
you know that gets you in a positive attitude, so you're in the
And
flare.
then it'll slow down, and then at that point, okay.
Unless you're too fast, then it'll balloon.
Well, right, and that's
Right.
what
But
that's a fine line between the flare and the coming back up, and
that's
that's
right.
where I've
And a
been.
lot of folks, I personally don't do this, but I know a lot of folks that do this, and they find that it works well. Is you pulse the stick or the yoke, right? So you're doing this in the flare.
Okay.
Me, I'm more of a gradual pull and hold.
Yeah.
It's just how I fly. You know, I don't
Right.
know that it's right or wrong, but
I was gonna say
so
that's how a lot of people hover. Well, when they're doing the 3D maneuvers in RC, they'll pulse
yeah,
to keep the plane mostly level, and I guess that's so
right,
that you don't, even though you may be overdoing a little bit, you're not going to do that for long. So it
right.
equalizes, I
So
guess.
so all I'm saying is it's okay to put inputs in the flare. You know, it's not a pull and just hold it. You can
Yeah.
fly the airplane if you need to.
Okay. Yeah. Well, good. Thank you.
Yeah,
I'll have to give that a
I'm
try.
not an
So
instructor, so
no,
take that for what it's worth,
it
which is nothing. So
it's a nickel. It's a nickel, and a
not even.
cup of coffee will give me a cup of coffee.
Yeah.
No, I appreciate it though.
So the other couple of tips I can give you, one is make sure you nail your approach speeds. Even if you're 5 knots over, it screws up your flare
Mm-hmm.
because you're carrying all that extra speed, right? And the other thing is, I don't know how often you get to fly, but when I was learning how to fly, one of the biggest things I did was not fly for 6 months and saved up enough money to fly every day for 2 weeks or whatever it took, and
Okay.
then fly every single day or every time you can. Or if you can fly on the weekend, I'd fly 4 times, you know, once in the morning, once in the afternoon, because it's all about muscle memory.
Right.
And, you know, if it's a long time between lessons, the first half of your lesson, you're just kind of figuring out
Remembering
what you
everything.
forgot,
Yeah.
you know, and then so that helped me a bunch.
So nice.
Yeah, you just prompt me. I can talk about anything. So you just tell me what you want to listen. Otherwise, you're going to get what I want to tell you.